The podcast on Haunted Hill will contain spoilers and swearing.
I am the devil, and I am here to do the devil's work.
Please help us, Michael. Be one of us.
I didn't tell you my name.
Hang up.
I didn't tell them my name.
They're all a part of it. They're all parts of it.
Come. It is time to keep your appointment.
Hello and welcome to the podcast on Haunted Hill, episode 173. Kapow! Me and Dan are Kung Fu Karate Masters.
Yeah, that's right, baby. I'm Dan. I'm Sensei Daniel's son.
And I'm Gav.
You are Black Belt Gav.
Black Belt Gav.
There we go. Don't know why we're doing that, because what we're talking about on this episode is nothing.
Absolutely nothing. We're not doing any martial arts movies whatsoever.
It's because I was sticking my foot up like that. Welcome to the podcast on Haunted Hill, episode 173, as Gavin has said.
Welcome. Hope everyone's happy, safe.
Well.
Everything else in the world.
Healthy.
Yep. Wealthy. Oh, I hope everyone's wealthy.
Healthy, wealthy, and full of stealthy, baby.
Yep.
Yeah. It's a bit different from the Point Break one. Exciting. This is a patron. Gav, have you got something to say to our listeners who are new or returning? Or
yeah, this is if you're coming back. I have to write it down. It literally, my mind has to think about it. It's such an easy thing.
I'll help you. If you're a regular,
welcome back.
If you're a part-time
or first time,
if you're a first time,
welcome front.
And if you're someone who just listens in now and again,
all around the side, my brain just can't initially get the stepping block to get going.
We'll write it down for you on a post-it note.
I should just have it on my Mac here. I could do it each time.
But yes, it's a patron pick, which means, for anyone who doesn't know, we have patrons, very kind, beautiful, sexy patrons, and one of their privileges is every 3 episodes, one of our patrons gets to pick what we watch, tell us why they want us to watch it, what they think of it, and Matthew Godley is our king patron of this episode. Matthew Godley, let me get the crown out.
Where was it?
That's the cock ring, that's the wrong one. There we go. Here's the crown. That's nice and shiny. Pop that on his head, imaginary, virtual head on his shoulders, of course. He is our king patron, and he has selected a couple of doozies for us. Now, Matthew kicked off this whole thing. He's the one that suggested patron pick, so yes. Very special place in our heart. Thank you, Matthew. And he's selected 1986 crazy creature feature, phantasm on acid. Who knows how you describe it? Is it 6 films mashed together? I don't know. But it's 1986's Spookies.
Yeah.
You've all heard it. Some of you have probably seen it.
I'd never seen it.
It's one that's kind of well known in the horror community. Whether you've seen it or not is another question. So that's a bit of light. We're going to do that one first from 1986. That's the sort of light bite. And the main course that he's selected for us to get our teeth into later on is Stanley Kubrick's A Clockwork Orange from 1971. That is an E.T. sandwich.
It is. That's I think more of a fuller conversation than the first one.
Yes, I think so as well. We'll have fun with Spookies, but I think we might end up crying with little clamps on our eyes by the end of the second conversation. So that's that. And also Bill Murray will be popping in for World of the Strange. He's told me it's something to do with an experiment he wants to do on me. So Lord knows what that will be. Hopefully it doesn't involve clamps on my eyes or anywhere else.
He messaged me in the week and told me what it was.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
He sent me diagrams and pictures and all sorts.
Diagrams?
It started in the 1700s. It's not good.
I think I've seen this in a museum in Amsterdam.
Okay, the sex museum?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's right.
Okay, cool. Well, that's what's happening in this episode 173. Other than that, we're fine and dandy. Gav, what have you been up to? What have you been doing? What have you been watching?
The past weekend, I've been working for Deadbolt Films. Very, very, very hard. Deadbolt Films is a side company. Bone Idol Comics. Do follow Bone Idol Comics on Instagram to see all the comics which are being produced and made, because we've got lots on the go, still lots to come. We spent all weekend packing Eldritch Lust 3, episode 3, so if you kickstarted it and you put it in, it will start getting to you. We're getting all the British ones out first because it's not going through Trump's tariffs and all Brexit and everything else, because it's in mainland. Then we will get the others out. It's just taking a little bit long time. But I've been doing that all weekend. That's pretty cool. Amanda's totally finished, as far as I am concerned, because I can't do it anymore. It's now, looking at the footage, it's now been 6 years been making this film. Anyway, Amanda's
so
finished.
For anyone who doesn't know, just to interject, Amanda started off during the pandemic as a series of short, connected found footage. Well, it's a found footage story told in small segments.
Yep.
However, it was decided that we would splice this together into a feature. Had it out a little with bits and bobs.
Yeah, there was just a couple of bits in it, which it wasn't a huge amount. When I actually took the bits out and you looked at it as a block, you're like, oh, there's those bits, and those bits got to be filled in. So that's a lot to be filled in. But there's some really good bits in it which are not. It's like, I can't just throw this away. There's some kind of cool bits in it. One of them, the main one. Yeah, that one. Yep. That I had to do a hand signal for it. That's gold. It's literally the most goldest I can pay for stock footage of it. I don't think, Anyway, we're going to release it on YouTube on a Deadbolt channel for free. We decided to keep the distribution rights rather than put it out and go through distributors, because then it would go out for $9.99 on Amazon, and then eventually it'd go for free on Amazon and Prime, and then it'd go to like Plex and all that other stuff and Roku or whatever. We decided to keep the rights. That way we can produce DVDs and hopefully some limited edition VHS tapes of it, which we're going to sell at conventions and things. Speaking of which, we're at a convention next month, and that is also going to be co-aligned with when we're releasing Amanda in Farnborough. There's a Horrified, which is a convention weekend of, I think, 25th of April next month. If you're sort of around, come down. Robert England's there. A lot of the cast of the original Hellraiser are there. Loads of stuff going on. Anyway, so I've been busy doing that, but also I have been watching a few movies. Sarah came down, we watched some bits and bobs. I'll tell you what I did watch actually before I got to Sarah's one. I watched with Elijah Transformers 1.
Yes, the animated one that's like the telling of how Megatron and Optimus Prime were friends, and then...
Have you seen it?
I haven't, but I've heard about it. You know me, I'm a geek, I know this, I know my shit.
It's really good.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, it's really good. I really enjoyed it.
I was put off.
Some good humour as well, actually.
I was put off. I will watch it, but I was put off because I thought, why are they making them friends first? It's a bit to me like in Smallville, the series where the Clark Kent and Lex Luthor were best friends. Yeah. In that series, but then that kind of did work in Smallville. So I guess, because I did like Smallville, so I guess it would kind of work in this. And at the end of the day, it's a fucking animated cartoon about some giant robots that can transform. So who am I to say what's realistic and what's not, really?
It's worth a watch. But, it's one of these things. I watch these movies with like Elijah, and I say to Sarah, but she's like, well, when am I going to sort of sit and watch, say, Transformers 1? I know you would. But say, for example, the average person probably wouldn't. So I don't know. But I actually thought it was a pretty good film overall, Sarah came by, set up the projector, watched a few movies, watched the movies for this. Didn't watch Spookies on the big one though. Watched that on the Saturday. Watched There Will Be Blood. Haven't seen that for a little while.
I drink your milkshake. I drink it all up. Is that the one?
Daniel Day-Lewis, yeah.
Fantastic stuff.
And I did the original Evil Dead on there, and Clockwork Orange is good. But this week I've had a Jason Statham thing, or more of a Guy Ritchie thing going on this week. I don't know why. All of a sudden I was like, right, that's it. So I watched... I actually watched a few of them. I watched Operation Fortune again.
I haven't seen it.
Really? I watched it again, and I don't know why I was really pissed off. I must have not been very happy. This time, I completely gave it another 3 ratings. I gave it a 7 out of 10. I was like, no, I really enjoy it. It's basically a there's Audrey Plaza, whatever her name is. She's in it, and I don't really like her. She's kind of weirdly cast. But apart from that, it's kind of like a James Bond film, it's kind of James Bond and Mission Impossible, where it's like the team with one person, Jason Statham, doing the thing. But it's quite enjoyable. Richard Grant's in it. No, not Richard Grant. Yeah, Richard Grant.
Richard E. Grant, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's Richard E. Grant. I also did Lethal Weapon on the big screen, which was nice. I did a couple of other films. I think I was kind of having a bit of a Henry Cavill week as well, funny enough. It's a bit weird.
Oh, he's a handsome man.
Just so I'm trying to get to what I watched. I do apologise. They were all Guy Ritchie films, to be honest with you.
Just while you're looking that up, you might have just solved Amazon Prime's quest for the next Bond. I've just realised it should be Statham.
That'd be hilarious, wouldn't it?
The name's fucking 007.
Bond. No, it should be Dan Dyer. I watched The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare again.
Still haven't seen that.
Oh, I really enjoyed that one because that's like just basically a bunch of guys who are like, these are like crazy fuckers in this World War II. Like, go on, off you go. You know, go and do a mission first that no one knows about. Okay, no worries. Really enjoyable.
You've recommended that to me in the past. They steal a giant boat or something.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really enjoyable actually. And I did another one as well. I can't remember what it was. I was doing just Guy Ritchie movies and shit. Really, that's kind of how I was this week with things. Apart from that, man, not much. You know. Busy. I'm busy with Deadbolt films. Getting Amanda finished has been my main priority, and it's been 6 years in the making, and it can fuck off now. It can go out to the world. I don't have any. I have no hand in it now. It's the world's film now, not mine
it's
anymore.
It's a shame it's not called Felicia, because then you could say, bye, Felicia.
I could do, but bye, Amanda.
Well, I've been busy. I've only really managed to watch one film of note, really, and that's a film from 2011. I've got a new job, so I've been extremely busy getting to grips with that. Really enjoying it, though. And obviously children who are turning 4 in a couple of months, so they're taking up all my time as well. So the only one I managed to watch is one that I've been wanting to watch for a very, 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 very long time, ever since first watching The Resident, I believe it's called, with Christopher Lee, etc., the Hammer film. And I think you said you should check out Sleep Tight. It's a lot like that. So it was on my list, and finally I just popped up on mine the next to watch.
It's good. So
it's a Spanish movie from 2011. It's called Sleep Tight. It's actually called Mientras Duermes, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, in Spanish. It is fucking brilliant, really tense, really makes you...
Creepy, isn't it?
At one point, I was rooting for the bad guy for one scene where he's trapped in the apartment. I was like, get out, get out, get out. And then I'm like, well, no, he's a fucking rapey pervert. Like, this is crazy. Yeah. Really well directed. And it's by one of the directors of Wreck. Which is probably why it's got that tension. But yeah, if anyone hasn't seen it, I highly recommend Sleep Tight from 2011. In a nutshell, it's about a creepy guy with a monobrow who is basically like the janitor for this big apartment block in Barcelona. And he sneaks around. He's got a key, so he can creep into your room if you want. He might even inject you while you're sleeping, so he can cuddle up next to you naked while you're sleeping. You won't be able to do anything about it. And it just escalates from there, really. And yeah, I think Norman Bates, but a bit more rapey. Good stuff, really good stuff. So thanks for the recommendation. Finally watched a film from 2011. Fucking hell, I'm a bit behind there, but there we go. You know what it's like, though. Sometimes you just haven't seen these.
Well, that this week you're going to be watching the full finished copy of Amanda, because you're just doing a QC for me, and so you'll be actually watching a movie which hasn't even come out yet. So that kind of helps.
At least
that makes you feel better.
Yeah,
kind of brings you back into it, the game a bit.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. So there we go. That's that.
Should we get on with it?
Yeah. Let's do Matthew's email.
Yep.
And then we'll jump into a trailer for Spookies.
Yeah.
So, as I said, Matthew is the sort of king patron of the episode. He is the guy that actually suggested patron picks many years ago, about 3 years ago, and I think it was. So I think this is his third or fourth go around. Might be his third.
Cool.
So let's see what he says. And again, for anyone who doesn't know, our patrons don't have to, but we encourage them if they want to send in, a little blurb about why they've picked these films and what they mean to them, that kind of thing. So, Matthew Godley, here we go. He says, as per my previous... Oh, actually, before we do Matthew's email, Gene Hackman, quickly. I want to talk about Gene Hackman. Sorry, Matthew, but Gene Hackman's death... it's just popped into my head.
Yeah. We
got to
spoke
quickly talk
off
about
air,
it,
didn't we? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a strange one, really. Well, I know it's been disclosed what happened, but it's still quite sad.
Yeah, really weird. So it turns out it looks like. So for anyone who doesn't know, Gene Hackman and his wife and dog were all found dead in their property. They've been there for about 2 or 3 weeks. She was quite mummified. I think it might have been longer than that, actually.
Yeah.
And what had happened is she died of a parasitic virus that you get from like rodents. They probably had like rats or something. And she died, and his dementia was so bad, he didn't realise she'd been dead. So he lived for another week. But obviously she wasn't there to give him his heart drugs, his dementia drugs, and all the other stuff.
Yeah,
she's basically his carer.
He's probably just wandering around the house. I'm assuming he must have shut the dog in a door or something, and the dog probably starved.
It's so sad to think, not just of Gene Hackman, but of anybody having.
Yeah, just
he
that.
was so,
or that ending for their life.
Yeah, he was just so oblivious to it. At least, I guess, he was oblivious to it. But I just really hope he didn't suffer, or her, of course, or the dog. But it was a really weird thing when they announced, both of them are dead and the dog, and everyone was like, "What? Who's killed them? What have they done? Have they done something to P. Diddy or the Weinsteins?" But turns out it was just a really weird set of circumstances. But they are saying there is a few bits that don't add up, so they are still doing some investigation into it. But I think it's just
great actor.
Yeah,
it's a real shame because there was a point when he lost the passion because he was actually just doing movies to pay for divorces. That's why he's doing it. And he even said he was watching Kevin Costner do something. Kevin Costner's telling a story recently, and he was watching him do something, and Kevin Costner says some stuff to the director, and afterwards Gene Hackman went up to him, and he thought he was going to say to him, "You fucking do that again, I'll fucking kill you," sort of thing like that. And he actually said to him, "Watching what you did was kind of show me the passion of how I used to be with filmmaking." Like, what he did something to direct, I don't know, whatever happened, it's quite a tense moment or whatever, I don't know, talking about acting and stuff, and it sort of showed him that, and he sort of spoke about it and said, "Yeah, I just do it now just to pay for divorces." And then he also, Gene Hackman himself said that like he got taught how to act and whatnot, but he never got taught how to deal with paparazzi. He never got taught how to deal with money, agents, fame.
Yeah,
and he didn't like it.
He famously fell out with a lot of directors in the beginning of his career.
I can understand not liking fame. I don't think I'd like it.
On the set of the French Connection, him and the director almost came to blows several times. And
Friedkin.
Yeah, because Friedkin was really didn't like him, and because he's a tough guy, isn't he, Gene Hackman? And he was a bit in real life, a bit of a tough guy. Although apparently quite a softie as well when you got to know him, because obviously he played Lex Luthor, in the original Superman movie. So he had some funny bone in his body, and he was a good guy. But I think as he was sort of cutting his teeth and trying to play this Popeye Doyle character in the French Connection movie, Friedkin was just winding him up.
They didn't like, both of them didn't really like playing Schneider as well. Both didn't like playing the sort of badder people. Yeah. Even though, and Gene Hackman especially, because Friedkin said about this, actually, Gene Hackman was like, "I don't like being out in Friedkin's." Like, that was the character. That was the cop. That's what he was like. You have to be like that.
Yeah, it was the racial stuff he didn't like. He didn't like having to be racist. But a
good actor though. But a good actor. Really but unless unfortunately lost the passion due to not getting along with the wife and getting divorced.
We'll probably never cover any of his films because he wasn't really in any horror films. But just worth a mention because he is a Hollywood icon who made it to 95.
Yeah, great actor though. Yeah.
Fantastic stuff. So back to Matthew. Sorry about that, Matthew, but I'm sure you appreciate that. Gene Hackman. We have to mention him.
Unforgiven.
Yeah, that's
Clint Eastwood and Morgan Freeman.
Yeah, great movie.
Yeah, I actually covered that on someone's podcast.
RJ McCready's podcast.
Oh, good.
Bite-sized Cinema, I believe that was. Still out there if anybody wants to check it out. Shout out to RJ McCready.
That was great. Sorry for forgetting RJ. My brain just does not remember any information. Stephanie, input. Stephanie
need input. Maybe we'll cover that one day. Short Circuit.
Check as a sexual one. Stephanie want input.
Weirdly, I covered Short Circuit, but not on RJ's, on Ricky Morgan's show. Oh. So there we go.
Anyway, our podcasting tentacles. Go on, get on with it.
Get your tentacles out of me. Matthew says, he doesn't say that. He says, Hello.
His letter is, get them tentacles out of me. Signed off, Matthew.
And that's it.
Is that it? What is going on, Matthew, with those tentacles, eh?
He says, hi guys, as per my previous patron picks.
He might like Eldritch Lust comic series if he's into tentacles and going places.
Hello. As per my previous patron picks, I'd like to give you something a bit more heavy-hitting as the aperitif, followed by something a little more easy to digest as a compliment. We're going to switch it, though, Matthew.
We are.
He said, I considered a range of hard hitters, including Salo. Thank God we didn't have to cover that one. The Painted Bird.
I don't know.
But I settled on one which I think you and the wider Haunted audience would enjoy. So he starts with Clockwork Orange. Yeah. So I'm just going to read out what he says about that. So he says, I first saw this film on its DVD release following Kubrick's death and was blown away by it on several fronts. Everything in this film is downright weird, but the sum of its parts adds up to a terrific movie. From the Nadsat language, the costumes, the futuristic sets, to the acting and the use of Moog synthesizers playing the old Ludwig van. The old Ludwig van. It's so mental, isn't it? He says,
old in and out.
A bit of the old in and out. The ultra violence, my drugs. It's just one of a kind, isn't it? He says it is perfect. It is gorgeousness and gorgeosity made flesh. On a deeper level, though, it brings up questions of choice, totalitarianism, gang violence, imprisonment, and social issues, which feel as relevant today as they did when the film was released in the 70s. And I agree there. I was watching this now thinking, fuck me, like these gangs and stuff that's out there now, you know?
Well, that's great, because I quite often find the film in the conversation with you. I have notes, you have notes. We see they put together and we go, oh, and we sort of discover stuff as we go, which I quite like. And The Clockwork Orange is definitely a discovery movie of different things, layers.
He says, I always feel that a sign of a good film is one when you're disappointed when it ends, and I certainly was when the credits came up on this film. I felt that I could have watched another few hours to find out what became of Alex and his dream.
I'm not sure Spookies is in the same vein, but...
No, but it's his patron picks.
No, absolutely. I like the juxtaposition of them both, but I mean, you can't have this deep metaphorical conversation or whatever the fuck we're going to talk about with Spookies, I don't feel, as much as we can with Clockwork.
There's certainly a conversation to be had.
There is.
He says, for me, this is up there in my top 10 films, but don't put it on when the kids are awake due to the smatterings of ultra-violence and scenes of the old in and out.
I was about to say my kids like the ultra-violence. I don't know about the in and out, and I don't want to know about
They like the ultra-violence.
They like the violence.
He said, but when the kids are in bed and you are alone, close the curtains, put on this film, sit back, relax, and get one in the yarbles. And if you have any yarbles, you eunuch jelly thou. But moreover, viddy well, Gavin Dan, viddy well. I love that. And then he says, for Spookies, I first saw this film after recording it from the TV on the Bravo channel back in the mid-90s. That sounds about right, doesn't it?
That sounds exactly right on Bravo.
He said, when I was about 10 or 11, I had an agreement set up with my parents.
I think that's where I saw Bad Taste the first time.
Oh, amazing. He said, I had an agreement set up with my parents where I would circle in the TV Times, which was a magazine in the UK, TV magazine for anyone who doesn't know, that I wanted them to record. So he'd say, this is the one for tonight, and they would. He said, then when I was at school, my mum would watch the film and judge if I was allowed to watch it when I got home. Amazing. This is amazing. She's like the BBFC in the house, TV top, right, that one's been circled, we'll record it, but I have to check.
The British Board of Mum classification.
Yeah, the BBFMC or whatever.
That's amazing, because my parents are totally different. My parents are very much like, I'm going to watch a movie, yeah, go for it, see you later, don't make any noise. Oh, okay. Not that they didn't love me, but they're just like, do whatever you want, go over there and do that. And I'd watch anything I wanted, which was great. But I love the fact that your mum sat there and watched different films, and I love the fact that your mum sat there and watched films and went, yeah, you're not watching that one, but she watched it. So please let us know what movies you weren't allowed to watch.
He says she was actually my own very own Mary Whitehouse.
Indeed.
As long as there was not much swearing and only limited and very fleeting nudity, I was good.
So, are we saying your mum's in the 80s sitting there in the living room folding laundry or whatever, and there's watching just porn, Spookies. Not porn, but I mean like sex scenes on, which I love movies you're not allowed to watch, and you weren't, and she's going, oh, He can't watch that as she's folding.
I'd
Someone's
love
getting
to have been there when she
blown,
watched.
shotgunned in the head or something. Oh no, he can't watch that.
Yeah, but imagine her having to watch Spookies. She'd have been like, "What the fuck is going on
Yeah,
here?"
you can watch that. I don't know what was going on with that.
Similarly, Matthew, my parents did something like that, but they did this really annoying thing where we'd sit down as a family, well, just me and my sister, because my brother was much younger. And if we got to a point in the film where there'd been too much swearing or there was a sex scene, my parents would then stop the film. We'd all have to go to bed. They'd then review the rest of the film and then tell us whether or not we could watch the rest of it the next day. I was like, for fuck's sake, like, I've watched half of it.
That's so bad.
Like, we did it with Ghost. We got through the sex scene in Ghost, and that was fine. And then as soon as he says the F word in the train station, my dad stopped it. Said, "I'll tell you if you can watch the rest tomorrow." We were allowed to watch the rest because there was no more swearing or sex in it, and that's fine.
Right.
But I had to go to bed thinking, what's going to happen to Patrick Swayze?
This is me. Okay, this is my childhood. I was sitting there at work when my mum and dad worked. My mum was a receptionist in the coal business. My family comes from the coal business. Obviously not anymore. And I actually packed coal when I was a kid. I was like 15 or whatever. 40, no, I was younger than that. Anyway, regardless of that. So I was sitting there one day. My dad's there working. He delivered the coal, and they had a fleet of lorries and other people would work for them, etc., etc. And this guy then goes, "Yeah, I've got this videotape for you." And this was, I'd always hear this because they'd filmed things of Sky or whatever, and they'd pass videotapes around when Satellite just came out, sort of thing. And he's like, "Yeah, it's called Police Academy." And my dad's like, "Oh, he like that? It's a comedy." And I remember looking at the guy, and the guy's like, looked to my dad, said, no, I don't think you should let him watch this. My dad said, "No, it'd be fine." So I just sat there that night with my dad watching blowjobs happen in booths.
And there was a lot of boobs in that first one as well.
Yeah. So that was kind of how it was for me. I just didn't care.
I used to have to trick my mum because my sister was much younger. So on a Saturday afternoon, I'd usually get to rent something from the local mum and pop sort of store on the corner. And I'd always trick my mum and tell her, "Oh, I've seen this at somebody else's house," like a kung fu movie, like a Chuck Norris film or something. I'd never seen it, and I just had to hope and pray.
That's a good way.
She didn't walk in the room when there was something bad happening. And I do remember there was one time where she walked in the room and there was like a massive sex scene going on in like No Retreat, No Surrender 2 or something like that. And she was like, "And you said you've seen this before?" I was like, "Yeah." She went, "How long does this stuff go on for?" I remember she really put me on the spot, and I was like, "They're almost finished now."
I think he's going to wipe it in the curtains soon, Mum.
Oh, I wasn't watching that. Anyway, back to Matthew.
That's hilarious, though.
Yeah, sorry, that inspired quite a funny little offshoot there, Matthew. I hope you appreciate that. He said, "Indeed, though."
But very quickly, we have kids now ourselves. So I have a 10-year-old son, and so we watch Squid Games, the violence and that. He's not bothered. He's like, fine, because they are a little bit more desensitized with YouTube and stuff like that. You know, some stuff gets past them, they see stuff. But yeah, I am still with that though. What movies to watch there? So we're still just getting into sort of things now at 10.
And actually, funny enough, I messaged you the other day when Jack was off sick. My son was off sick, and we sat down together. And he loves Labyrinth. He loves Princess Bride. Two of my absolute favourite films of all time. And on Prime, next to one of them was The Dark Crystal, which is really dark film. And we put it on, even though it's Jim Henson. And within 20 minutes, he was crying. It was really scary for him, so I turned it off. And then he asked to watch the He-Man live-action Dolph Lundgren movie, which we covered for my birthday last year. And again, there was a scene about half an hour into it where Beastman is just tearing up the school gymnasium trying to get Courtney Cox, and it is quite terrifying. He was going, "I don't like the werewolf." And I was like, "He's not a werewolf, Jack, he's Beastman." He's like, "No, I don't like it. Skeletor's very scary." And then we had to put the He-Man cartoon on, and he felt much better about that then. So I'm at the other end of the spectrum. I'm trying to make him watch them.
But I said to you, Army of Darkness, I think, is the best gateway horror movie you could let kids to watch. Honestly, it's not that bad, and it's got comedy and spoofness in it. You can see it's like fantasy, and it's not real. It's medieval, so do you know what I mean?
I've got a few lined up, like Monster Squad and things like that, which when they're older,
that's older. But honestly, Army of Darkness, it's a good one.
But back to Matthew, he says, "Spookies did pass my mum's test, but it came with a warning from her. She said, 'You can watch it if you want, but it is bloody stupid. That would make me, as a 10-year-old, be like, fucking hell, get it on now. He said, and I've had a weird relationship with this film ever since, whereby whenever I really consider watching it, whereby I never really consider watching it, but when I do, I always enjoy it. So I can completely understand why he likes this film.
This is a nostalgic movie for you, because this was my first time watching this in 2025 at 48.
He said, similar to food, sometimes you don't always fancy an aesthetically pleasing 3-course gourmet meal in a hoity-toity restaurant. No. Sometimes you just want a greasy burger and chips at the local fairground. You do. And that's exactly what Spookies is. It doesn't pretend to be anything other than a cheap fairground burger. But it definitely hits the spot if the mood is right. Actually, thinking of fairgrounds, it reminds me of the old ghost trains you get on the British coast. Both are full of mishmash of varying standards of props. There is a feeling that anything can happen next, but both have that nostalgic smell of the 80s. I accept that most horror fans think this film is trash, but one man's trash is another man's treasure. So switch off the lights, crack open a tin of beer, turn the volume all the way up as you transport you back to a time before CGI and a coherent storyline were needed. I ask only one thing of you, Gavin Dan, for Spookies. Do not hold back on your review. He's asked us to be honest, so honest we shall be. All right.
I would say that if it's a fairground burger, I think the meat's gone off. But we'll get to it.
Just for hindsight, not hindsight, but just for context, Matthew's picks over the last couple of years have been Hansel and Gretel from '88 and Bram Stoker's Dracula. That was one of the licking the bowl through the window, wasn't it? It was. The donkey. Had me in fucking hysterics. Yeah. Almost killed you, that scene with the donkey licking the custard. Don't start. I'll go off again on it. He then picked fucking Flash Gordon and Dead Man's Shoes. Oh. And obviously now we've got Spookies and Clockwork Orange, so Dead Man's Shoes was a dark conversation, wasn't it, as well? I really enjoyed watching it again, though. Really good movie. So, Matthew, thank you so much for your email. Yeah, thank you. I hope we do you proud on this episode. I will. The other day, I went to the zoo, speaking of laughing out loud. Was there a donkey? My eldest, Charlie, went and took a picture of my middle child, Daisy, when she put her head through like an otter thing, so on the other side it looked like she was an otter. Right. And she'd zoomed in, and it just looked like it was actually an otter with a little pair of glasses kind of doing his face. And I started laughing so much, I hurt my jaw so bad I couldn't eat properly for 2 days, right? And I stood there just laughing so much that I actually started hurting, going, ha, ha! It just, everyone was looking at me, are you all right? Like, yeah. Yeah, it's just, oh my God, it's so funny. And I have said to Charlie, please do not send me that picture again because I hurt my jaw. I'll see it soon. I'm not ready for laughing again like that because I was in the middle of a zoo just wetting myself and I hurt my jaw so bad. Funnily enough, I was at a zoo this weekend, as I've told you. Oh, that's funny, we were both at zoos. And you can't make this up. I was looking at some raccoons. You got caged up with the monkeys? I was taking a picture of a raccoon to send to They thought you were a monkey? No. I was taking a picture of a raccoon to send it to RJ McCready because Guardians of the Galaxy's Rocket Raccoon, I knew he'd love that. And while I was doing that, I could hear a load of commotion from my kids. They're 3, turning 4 in a few months, so they don't know what's going on. And Alice is pissing herself, and I'm like, why is Alice laughing so much, my wife? So I go over there, and these 2 animals, I don't really know what animals they were just fucking going at it. Hammer and tongs. And the kids were going, what do you mean you don't know what animals they were? Did it have 4 legs? It had 4 legs. It was like a big rodent thing from Australia. I don't really know what it was. All right, fine. And but they were going at it, hammer and tongs. Yeah. And my kids were just watching, going, what are they doing? Are they cuddling? Are they fighting? What's happening? And it's like, you're 3. Just move on to the next cage, please. But they were really, it was almost like they'd waited for an audience. They waited for the 3-year-olds. Vera! Come on, let's go. I think those ones are 3-year-olds. Let's disturb them for life. Honestly, it was horrible. And later on, give it to me. They were still going at it about 45 minutes later. They're coming back. Stick it in my mouth. Jesus Christ. Well, on that note, flipping the script on what Matthew has put in his email, we are going to do Spookies first. So I feel like we have such a conversation with Clockwork that going into Spookies would be like, I don't know. I'll be exhausted. I'll be spent.
I feel like it's like a really disastrous dessert that they've just given me. Like, oh, I don't like that. That's horrible.
Well, let's have a little trailer for Spookies, and then we'll get into some spooky dookies. With the approval of Matthew Godley's mother, of course.
Brilliant.
That's weird. No name.
Happy birthday, Billy.
Come on, Megan, it's spooky as hell inside.
Spookies from 1986, rated 18, an hour and 25 minutes. A wicked sorcerer tries to sacrifice a group of people inside his house with the invention of using their vitality to keep his wife alive. To be honest, I watched this movie and a day later I couldn't remember what happened. So that's all new to me almost.
Spookies. It is a bit of a cult movie. Horror fans.
I've seen the cover.
Love it or hate it.
The name is brilliant.
Yeah. It's one that I've seen. I think it's probably my third time I've seen it. I didn't see it until much later than Matthew. I probably saw this in my 20s. I don't know where I saw it. I think it was on Sky or something. And then I saw it again, probably not, only about 5 or 6 years ago. And I had completely forgotten what it was about, so we watched it. Yeah. And, you know, exactly as he described, it is like a greasy burger at a fairground. You kind of forget about it after you've eaten it, but you do kind of enjoy parts of it while you're watching it. But it is pretty fucking out there, and it's like somebody chucked a bunch of ideas in a blender, and then got some really good practical effects guys in, but then some not quite so good practical effects guys in as well, and mix it all together with some terrible acting, a weird plot.
Yeah.
But it is a fun ride in some ways.
It is confusing for that effects thing. So if this was a big studio product, I'd say this is fueled by cocaine through and through. 86, you know. But it is weird. You know when we watched like A Nightmare on Elm Street 4 and we said that's pretty much an effects show for the effects artist rather than an actual movie? Mm-hmm. I think it's 4 or 5, one or two. This feels almost the same.
4 and 5, I think we said.
Quite possibly. This feels almost the same in some sense. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like we've got all it, because it's like you wouldn't write this film and then have them effects, because any producer that's going to come along and look at that is going to go, that's going to cost an absolute fucking fortune. You can't have all these effects. Or if you could tell me a bit of backstory, I think, can't you?
Yeah, I've got a little bit of a production history.
Or you've got a director who's already friends with an effects artist who already has a lot of shit already made, and it's like, yeah, let's do this. I've got this. Okay, I'll write around what you have. Do you know what I mean? That's how I see it.
There's, a bunch of different monsters and zombies and like a werecat pirate boy.
There's so much, and it's weird because some of the effects are really elaborate, huge things, but it's like they're not good enough to be, say, a really good Rob Bottin sort of effects or something from The Thing or something like that. Do you know what I mean? But like, someone's put a lot of fucking effort in anyway, and it's cost a lot of money for materials, a fuck ton of money that would have cost to make all those effects. So I am confused and surprised by what's going on here. It's just like, what is going on? Because there's so much effects, and it's all practical.
One thing you would say, I mean, I was just about to say, I guess at 10 or 11 years old when Matthew watched this, it's a child's dream, really, because it's just
monsters.
Bang, 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 you know.
Creatures, yeah.
Constant. And I think the other thing is, the positive is, it does keep you guessing, because although the plot makes absolute no sense, really, I mean, there is a plot in there somewhere, but it's more about, like, the surprise and the ghost train thing that Matthew said. You know, you don't really know what the next scene's going to be, because once you get into the sort of flow of it, every scene is a different monster or a different creature or a different, and none of it really ties together. But you kind of, like, when you were younger, I guess, and you're watching this, you don't really care, because it's just like, what's next?
But that's
in some ways like those Harryhausen Sinbad movies. You're just waiting for the next big monster to come along, really. It's not until you're older that you realise what the plot is.
Well, that's why I didn't remember any of this the next day, because there's too much going on. I started off going, okay, this is what's happening. Then it's like out the window. What is going on?
Well, here's a little bit of production sort of backstory on the movie, and I'm sure Matthew's already aware of this. But so
the production team accidentally was shooting in a warehouse which was full of cocaine from some drug dealers that used to be there once upon a time, and they went, oh my god, what is this? And it just went everywhere, and they went, I've got an idea. And the effects artist said, look, there's some speed over here as well. I'm gonna go and make fucking 500 monsters now. Is that what
we're gonna have a spider lady whose head sort of explodes?
There's so much. It's so elaborate.
And a little pirate cat.
That's why the director or whoever wrote this did not write that stuff in, because the producer had been like, what the shit? What world do you live on that we can afford this, you know?
This feels like, before I read the this feels a bit like Phantasm sort of little stepson. Do you know what I mean? It's got that, because Phantasm doesn't really make sense.
It's taking a lot of drugs.
But there's a lot of shit going on in Phantasm, and you're just there for the ride. And this is, in some ways, a bit like a lesser Phantasm.
I feel drugs are involved somewhere in this production, though.
I do.
I keep coming back to that. I don't know why.
Maybe Spookies means like coke. So Spookies, yes, it's a 1986 American independent horror film which was directed by Brendan Faulkner and Thomas Duran, with additional footage, which we'll get into in a minute, directed by Eugenie Joseph.
Okay.
So it follows a group of partying adults who find an abandoned mansion, become trapped inside as the warlock tries to sacrifice them to keep his bride in a coffin upstairs alive. It was given a limited theatrical release in 1987, but it gained notoriety on video the next year, and then on the following year in cable. And it was constantly on cable in the US, apparently between 1988 and 1991, which is where it really got its cult following, because again, that's that sweet spot where kids between sort of 10 and 16 would have seen it multiple times, probably. You know, it's on every Friday night or something like that, you know what I mean? Yeah. But the other bit of backstory is, it started out as a film called Twisted Souls, which was written and produced by Frank Farrell, Brendan Faulkner, and Thomas Duran, who were the directors, the last two. So principal photography for the film began in Rye, New York, in late 1984, so 2 years before it was released. And they finished in October of the same year. Twisted Souls was being edited when creative and legal issues between the producers and the financial backers prevented the final post-production work, which was the editing, the scoring, the post-effects, from being carried out. So they took the original Twisted Souls footage, which was directed, as I've said, by Faulkner and Duran, and that consists of all the travellers who arrive in the two cars, so the two cars full of the people, and all the monsters and the effects they encounter with the issues. And then they ended up just drafting in another director and filmed a whole bunch of extra stuff and sewed that all in. So it's not technically two films spliced together, but it's kind of like a half-finished film, and then they actually somebody came in and they added in a load more stuff, pieced it all together, turned it into a different title, Spookies. So they added a whole new cast, separate cast in this, which includes Billy, the little boy at the beginning who turns up for no reason for a birthday party.
Yeah.
The pedo in the tree that talks to him.
Yeah.
The cat boy, which if you think about it, he never interacts with anyone but the warlock upstairs.
Right.
The warlock himself.
Yeah, I'll start
the girl in the coffin.
Yeah.
And all the zombies. None of those were in the original film. And that's why you don't really see a lot of them interacting with the main cast.
Oh my God.
They also added the witch in the basement and the little blue boy that lives in the cupboard. So yes, all of this is in one film.
There's a part of it where I felt like I wanted to say to Sarah, is blood coming out my ears?
But yeah, so
I was
on
the train when we started this. Go on, carry on, Karen.
Yeah, they added in a lot of the bad guys. There was already like the muck men and the spider lady, and that were already in it. Because you've got those mud men that fart. You know the ones they just turn up at one point and they're just farting at them.
Yeah.
But yeah, they added in a whole extra bunch of stuff.
I've forgotten about that.
Turn this into an hour and 25-minute feature.
It feels like some dream I was having, to be honest with you.
It's like a dream, and it's going to be difficult to break down, but we will try. But yeah, it's definitely now I know that this was a sort of probably about 60 minutes, and they added another 25 minutes in of additional stuff. You can kind of see that where some of the characters don't interact with each other. But it is what it is. It's got some crazy monsters in it. It's got something for everybody in it. If you like spider ladies that want to kill you and suck you dry,
let's go.
It's got everything in it. It's even got boglins in it.
It's very weird. Like I said, I was at the beginning with I was like on the train for it, then all of a sudden I was just I don't know where this train's going. I'm just going to pull the hat over my eyes and go to sleep almost. I did watch it all. I didn't go to sleep.
So there's an interesting, almost giallo score as well at times, which is promising at the beginning, and you get a very cheap title card then appear on screen.
Yeah, it's kind of like a really cheap version of Creepshow.
Yeah, I suppose it is. And again, a lot of these effects are frustratingly quite good, but not really good.
Yeah.
And we start off in a graveyard, and there is a great scene here of a grave.
That grave's
pulsating.
Oh yeah, that's kind of cool. Then it cuts.
I've not seen that before.
Yeah, the flexible grave. It does when you get this kid all of a sudden that pops up after we've had like the man talking with a cane talking to a coffin.
Yeah, so we get the sorcerer whose name is Creon, and it's his house that we're all going to be going to in this film. Creon is sat in his sort of magic room, saying, yes, all I need is more victims, and they'll be here soon to bring my wife back to life. Then we shall be together forever. And he's got a coffin. And you obviously know that.
It's essentially it's Dracula.
Yeah, but he needs the life force of these other people to bring his dead wife back from the dead. 70 years later, apparently.
But we're outside again with a kid. There's this gravestone which is looks like it's made out of fucking foam. They're just painted on some grey and just carved in a few. It looks so bad. So yes. Really, really bad. I can get my kids to do better than that. That's really bad.
And this is the first time we see a little vampire werecat pirate boy.
Pedo in the trees.
Oh, he comes up in a minute. But the little vampire boy,
Pedo,
he's sort of spying on this little boy called Billy. Now, Billy's decided, it's his birthday, and he's decided to run away from home. So he goes out in the woods, and he sits down with his little bit of birthday cake all on his own. And this is where...
What is this kid's backstory? We don't know.
We don't know.
It's so random.
But then some kind of weird pedo pervert sort of goes, "Hey, kid."
Yeah, right. And all of a sudden there's a pedo.
"What are you doing out here in the woods?" And he's like, "It's my birthday." And he's like, "You got a light for me, kid?" And yeah, the kid does have a cigarette lighter. And he lights this. He says, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I ran away from home. It's my birthday today." He goes, "Oh, yeah, your birthday, is it?"
Then he goes, "How old are you?"
I know.
What do you want to know his age?
And then Billy says, "Well, look, I got to go anyway. I'm not afraid of anything." And he walks off, and that pedo gets killed by the vampire pirate boy.
Fair enough, though.
Fair enough.
Kill the pedo.
Can't kill anyone.
Yeah.
And we then get the introduction of the most craziest mishmash of people that I've seen in a long time in a film. 2 cars with people of all ages.
It's the weirdest couples.
There's like an older couple that you might think are the parents at the beginning.
It must have been like literally like, is anyone around to make a movie? Yeah, we are.
We need 7 or 8
give
people.
you a bit of money, not much. We like feed you some pizza. All right, yep. You could be a couple. You be a couple. And it's like, why are these friends even hanging out? What is their root common interest?
One of the guys is dressed head to toe in leather, like Eddie Murphy, stand up.
I've seen you wearing that.
Yeah. Black leather he's wearing throughout the whole movie. And there's another guy with a hand puppet for no reason who just uses that to annoy everyone. What the fuck?
When they're driving along in the car, there's no engine sound in Foley. They haven't put no, because they've obviously, if you didn't know this, quite often the car doesn't move.
Someone's just rocking it outside.
It does. George Miller, he goes out there and shoots Mad Max type films, and obviously it does. But for this case, and for ease on a studio, or in a sound stage, whatever, it's just there. You have a car, you have people around it moving it. The car could be moved a bit, but then later on, you go and you have to go. Okay, you need a bit of sound effects of some wind, sound effects of people, and sound effects of the car engine, and they just don't have a car engine sound. So it was the weirdest. I don't know if I've ever seen this before. So you're just like, you're kind of in there, but in a way, it kind of makes it dreamlike and atmospheric, because that's not correct. It should be. Do you know what I'm saying? But I don't think they're cool enough to... not cool enough. I think they're creative enough to have gone there and thought that ahead. They just haven't fucking done it.
And we've seen this sort of conversation in Evil Dead, in the Friday movies, where there's a group of people on their way to a place that's obviously going to cursed, and they're all getting drunk and chatting about what they're going to do when they get there and that kind of thing. And yeah, there is a really weird mishmash of people,
and it does feel like an Italian horror film, though. You'd always find these carloads of like kind of random people in Italian horror film. They're going out to a graveyard or a castle.
Yeah.
So it does have that sort of... It does feel like definitely like the people who made... There's going to be some fans of horror who made it, presumably, and they might have been fans of Italian horror.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you, and particularly with some of the scoring as well. There is
it's
definitely
quite an ominous
European
score going on. It's not amazing, but it's what's good about the score is it doesn't actually sound dated. Sometimes music scores can sound dated with the choice of instrument, because it's cool at the time or whatever. Do you know what I'm saying? And this doesn't, because it's really weird choices of sounds here and there, but it actually kind of makes it okay. So I am giving it some slight props for this. I don't know how many more props I've given it, but there you go.
Well, there's a lot of props in the film,
and fucking loads.
So we then cut back to the sorcerer,
and
Creon.
That PV suit is a fucking amazing PV suit, by the way.
That what?
PVC black suit the man wears is incredible.
He's just in my notes as Leatherman.
Yeah, I think it's PVC, but
either way, it's squeaky.
It's incredible. It's black and shiny, and it's looking good.
And it's a 2-piece. Creon, the sorcerer, back to him. He opens the coffin, and we see this beautiful bride in there. She looks a lot like Winona Ryder when Winona Ryder was blonde in Edward Scissorhands. She's wearing a bridal gown, and he says to her, my beautiful bride, I've waited 70 years to wake you. Once this group of people arrive, I'll be able to take their life force and bring you back to life. I've written here a really bad script. Sorry, Matthew, but it is, I mean, you know this anyway. The scripting at times is appalling in this, and bad acting as well.
Then we've got the kid just walks into a house that's full of balloons. What's going on?
So Billy, who's run away from home at the age of 13, nearly got grabbed by a pervert. He's found the house in the middle of the...
He's not doing well. He's just left home for it, and he almost got nabbed by a perv.
And he comes across this giant house in the graveyard, which is Creon's house, and he walks on in.
Yeah,
and
totally.
he sees a table set up with balloons, and one of the cakes says, "Happy birthday, Billy," and he's like, "Ha, brilliant! You've set me up a surprise birthday party. This is so good."
I have got it here, but I kind of like the fact that this film kind of does drip in straight into it, and it kind of drips with atmosphere a little bit. Do you know what I mean? And I'm quite intrigued of what's going on at the moment.
Yeah.
This does kind of wane, though, but yes.
Well, we leave Billy at the birthday table for a moment, though, because we cut back to the Catboy monster pirate kid who chucks a branch in the road as a sort of decoy for the two cars full of people. And they get out the car. Leatherman's sort of like, "Hey, come on, let's Let's get this bread channel. Leatherman and Puppet Boy.
Leatherman and Puppet Boy just sounds like a movie we shouldn't be watching.
Sounds like a movie we should be watching.
I don't know about that.
But they move the branch out of the way, and they're all kind of like, oh, we've got to get to where we're going. They don't really explain why they're going to this mansion. They don't really explain They probably explain what their connection is. At the moment, there's about 7 or 8 adults of various ages, from the ages of about 20 up to about 50, maybe, that are apparently all friends, all drinking. Some of them, anyway. Some of them wearing leather, some of them with puppets. But anyway,
is this your description to the police? Some of them were wearing leather, officer.
One of them had a puppet, so.
One of them had a puppet. What did they do to you, sir?
They put a branch in the road. So Billy in this mansion, he's very excited that he's got this birthday party, and then a little toy robot comes up behind him, and he's like, "Oh wow, toy robots!" Then what I can only describe as a Jawa from Star Wars creeps into the mansion to spy on him again. And I'm like, at this point, I'm like, whoa, okay. Already, we're about 10 minutes in. I'm like, I'm a bit lost already. What's going on here? Why is there a Jawa creeping in?
This is. I was already quite intrigued. And at this point, I was like, what's that then? And I was like, oh, this movie's going to be a what's that then doing movie, isn't it?
What's that then doing? It's like a vampire child in a Jawa's outfit, basically. And it grabs a knife. Billy opens his present, but inside the present is a head. Because he says, "Is it a bowling ball?" And it's the head of Creon, and he says, "Happy birthday, Billy!"
It's like, obviously, there's the box is on the table, and the man's underneath the table with his head in the box.
Billy runs away, and we'll see what happens to him in just a moment. But as he runs off back into the graveyard, the 2 cars full of partygoers arrive at the mansion.
The weird couples.
And they're like, "Hey, what the hell? Why is there a mansion in the middle of a graveyard? Or better yet, why did somebody build a graveyard around their mansion? Who knows which came first?" And they're like, "Oh, I don't know. It's all a bit strange though, isn't it?" So while they're there, we keep seeing this fucking cat boy vampire thing with a hook for a hand, like a pirate.
Is it a security cat wolf werecat, which we have in the garden?
With a hook for a hand.
It's always outside.
Why has he got a pirate hook for a hand as well? And he's wearing like sort of a waistcoat like an 18th century. I don't know. But now I understand, he was spliced into the film. That's why he's always creeping around in the corridors. So
they've just shot these shots of this thing just because. Yeah. I love it when they went out there to shoot this out, and the guy's doing it says, "So what's my direction? What's the purpose of my character? What's my goal?"
2 cars have just arrived full of people.
That's it. Just you're kind of looking at the house,
creeping around with your hook for a hand, and he's like, "Okay, cool."
Why have I got a hook? That's your backstory. You figure that out.
What's my character? Am I a pirate, or am I a werewolf, or am I a vampire boy?
Or am I a cat? What am I?
You're a werecat zombie.
You're all of what you just said. Just look creepy. Go.
Take some more cocaine and get on with it, please.
And action.
So yeah, they look at this mansion. Leatherman, of course, says, "Let's go in."
Leatherman always wants to get in.
Does. So they go, "Oh God, all right." Well, an older couple were like, "Oh, do we have to?" Yeah, come on then. If Leatherman says it, so they all go on in.
That's them walking.
You got the guy with the puppet, and he's going, and everyone's like, "For God's sake, John!"
If I was there, I'd be like, "I want to kill all of you right now. I'm not staying in this mansion with you, let alone the car."
Why the fuck has a grown man got a puppet on his arm? He's like a reject character from one of the Friday movies. Like I can imagine Crispin Glover having a puppet in one of the Friday movies. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But anyway, they've got shitloads of beer in their cars, of course, and they set up a party with some music. There's some slow dancing going on. And it's just a weird mix of old and young people. You've got a couple of older people slow dancing. The younger people are kissing. Puppet Man's going around, going up to everybody. Leather Man's dancing with his girlfriend. It's all going on already. They've got this party started.
They don't need any 80s. You didn't need anything to get a party going. You turn up at a house and press play on the stereo, the tape deck, and everyone just goes, "Yeah.
Cool. I guess this is a party." Billy, the little boy outside, he is attacked by the vampire
Bang
cat
wolf
zombie pirate.
Bang Wolf.
Okay. And he's chased.
It's a private joke between me and Sarah.
Bang Wolf, okay. And he is chased. We'll come back to him again in a moment.
Yep.
While they're in the house, all the lights have gone out. What the hell's going on? Oh no, all the lights are on initially. Why are all the lights on in the house? Maybe someone lives here. I don't know. Who could it be? Could it be Creon the sorcerer living in the...
At this point, it could be fucking the Bonball Snowman up there in a fucking leather apron.
Now, I thought this next scene was quite cruel and quite good, because it's like a 13-year-old boy and the vampire cat.
I like the kid getting killed.
Yeah. He gets attacked by the cat boy thing, who rips his face open with the hook, and then he chucks him in an open grave.
This was actually the most full-on thing in this film.
Yeah, and this little boy is sort of lying in the grave with
and he just
blood
throws dirt all over him,
and he just keeps burying him, and then he's just.
It was really interesting. Like, oh, okay. Unfortunately, we didn't really go there again with anything as intense as that.
I think he comes back later as a zombie.
I don't know.
But yeah, so Billy is dead, and then the zombie boy, Catman, heads back to the house. Hope you're with us, listeners.
Yeah. And when we get back there, we're back with our random group of couples. We still don't know why they're there. They're just there.
I've written here, party's still going on. Puppet Man is clearly deranged. Because he is just going around with this puppet on his hand. And the leather man is quite upset about something. And again, they don't explain why he's cross with his girlfriend or what he's cross about. She goes, you know what he gets like sometimes. They don't explain why he's upset.
Yeah, there's no explanation of any of it. So I'm presuming none of it was actually written in the first place in the script. It was literally like, a group of kids go there. We've watched horror movies. Group of kids go there. Da-da-da, 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 da-da-da. Add this, add that.
I would have written... He's upset that his leather is chafing his bollocks.
That's so what we go with. We go with leather chafing.
Leather chafing. Now, we get a cool little moment now where they're sort of looking around and one of them finds a planchette from...
Yeah, a really weird Ouija board shape, isn't it? Oh, yeah. It's for one, isn't it? It's for one person.
Yeah.
I was like, I'd never believe that. I'll be like, no, you're moving it. I'm not moving it.
They find... Well, before that, they find this planchette. Bear in mind, what they're about to find in the cupboard doesn't make any of them leave the house.
No.
So they're like, what is this? And they're like, I don't know what it is. Well, we as an audience, we know what it is. It's a planchette for a Ouija board. But then Leatherman's like, hey, I found a locked door over here. I'm going to smash it open. And they're like, well, why would you do that? Someone could still be living here. And he's like, back off, pal. And he just smashes this door in. Nothing inside it initially. And then... a lovely old mouldy corpse falls out with a Ouija board under its arm. This effect is quite good.
Yeah.
It looks like in Life Force, when the people have had the life sort of sucked out of them in Life Force, it kind of looks like that.
It does.
It looks quite good. It's a corpse, though. They're all looking at it. No one knows if it's real or if it's a prop. But what they're more interested in is underneath its arm is a Ouija board. It looks like some kind of dumb board game. Let's play it. Okay, let's play it. So they put the planchette on it. This is what this is for. Put it on there. And then this girl just goes all sort of, this is called, it's almost like she's totally reading from a script now. She's like, this is called a Ouija board. This is the planchette. What you do is you ask questions and it lets demons answer. And we know this as an audience.
And it plays a really loud, weird music score over the top. But it does keep the slight atmosphere still.
Yeah. Now, what's quite cool, and another thing I do like, is when they ask the Ouija board questions...
Tells you how old it died.
The man upstairs, the Creon, not God, Creon, the old dude in the attic or wherever he is, he answers, he says, you will never leave the house. They say, like, when will we leave this house? Will we be together in 3 months' time as a couple? And he says, no, you will die tonight. And then whatever he says, the Ouija board spells out. So he's exercising his control already, his magic over the Ouija board, and they're all getting freaked out. When will I leave? Never. Never. And that's pretty cool. I quite like that. And then all of a sudden, the old man says, well, I'm going to possess Carol now, one of the women. And lo and behold, Carol, we knew it was coming. She's facing the opposite way. We watched the Evil Dead movies. Carol, why are you facing the other way, away from camera? And then she turns around and she's like, I am no longer Carol. I am under the possession of Creon. And she's all possessed.
Is this when the old man's vein in his forehead pumps?
Yes, his vein really sticks out in his forehead, doesn't it, when he's doing this?
It's a practical effect. It's not actually the actor.
I think that's to symbolise that he's controlling her with his mind. So they were like, how are we gonna symbolise that? Get a big vein, a big bladder, one of those effects in his forehead, and it's like a big penis vein on his forehead, just really throbbing.
Is this where the woman gets possessed and goes like, Team You Evil Dead?
That's what I just literally. Do you not listen to what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
You don't. That's what I said. Though Carol turns away, and then they're like, "Carol."
Yeah.
And then she turns back.
And
she's like,
"Isn't it like a Team You Evil Dead?" Though it's like you asked for the Evil Dead like head prop to come, and this turned up. You're like, what's that?
Or you do supermarket online delivery, and they're like, we didn't have the good coffee, so we've sent you like the really crap budget price coffee.
Yeah, that's like, kind of it.
Yeah, okay, I'll have to take that as an alternative. Yeah, it's relatively good effects with her.
There's one problem in this whole movie, though. We get a point soon as a load of zombies just appear, and the zombies don't look too bad. The problem with this whole film is the lighting has been done so bad because they've just light everywhere. What? Should we just turn some of the lights down here and there to make it a bit more shadowy and spooky? And it's just lit. So that does, unfortunately, and it would help with the effects as well if you sort of darken stuff a bit. Later on, there's a little bit, but
I suspect there's two reasons for that. I suspect, firstly, that they weren't as experienced enough to know about things like that whilst making this, and secondly,
which seems crazy, but yes,
I think they wanted to really highlight some of these effects, and they didn't want to put them in shadow because they were proud of it. And I guess, they started making this in 83, 84, I think I said. I guess they would have been proud of a lot of these at the time.
They probably would, and there is also, we have to remember, with old films in the 80s and stuff, the effects artists realised also that, once they've been played on cinema, they go to VHS and people's homes, and the quality, like darks and things like that, come a lot darker, and the quality's not as good. So it actually helps some effects, because sometimes you watch films now with a 4K restoration or whatever the fuck, and you're like, oh, that looks pretty bad. But they didn't have to worry about that because they're like, well, they never thought in the future, this film could be like scaled up to like this crystal clear image where you could see every line of someone's beard or something. They didn't know that. So, yeah.
Well, Carol is possessed, and Creon says through Carol, she says to them all, she is mine now. And she attacks them, basically. This is where they start splitting up. So one of the couples runs out to the car, and another guy runs off into the graveyard. He gets killed immediately because a tombstone appears with his name on it, and he then gets sucked down into the ground and into the tombstone, and he's dead. So that's an easy cast member done and dusted. He'll come back later as a zombie, so that's good.
Yeah.
The couple who tried to get in the car, they run back inside, but then Hook Hand Boy starts banging at the door, and they're all getting freaked out. And Leatherman says, for God's sake, let me open the door. So Leatherman opens the door, and there's no one there other than a whole bunch of zombies that start swarming them with their eyeballs hanging out on little stalks. Quite good effects. Not bad. It's about as good as you'd get in a 70s sort of Italian zombie film.
Yeah.
And then they all look at each other and they say, well, clearly these zombies don't want us to leave the house. Pause, guys. Pause. You've been in the house for about 15 minutes. You've seen a little boy with a hook for a hand chasing you around. You've had your best friend turn into a demon after a Ouija board actually worked. You'd also found a corpse in a cupboard. You haven't worried about that. And on top of all of that, one of your friends just got sucked into a grave outside. Now there's zombies banging on the door. And all you can say is, clearly they don't want us to leave the house.
I've got a note that says, bet if I read the script, my head would explode.
I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of this was ad-libbed, really, or made up on the spot.
There's like weird fart-sounding monsters in the basement.
Oh, we'll get to them in a minute. That's quite a fun scene, actually, with the sort of sex in the basement and the mud monsters farting all over them. That sounds weirder than it is, but... they split up into smaller groups, always a good idea. Some of the guys head upstairs. Leatherman and his girlfriend go off in a different direction. And this is where the bride, Creon's bride, wakes up upstairs. And Creon is like, I'm so happy to see you. I've waited 70 years. And she's like, let me die. I mean, imagine waiting 70 years to wake up your bride.
And she's like, you look well crusty and old.
She says, why the fuck have you held on to me? I don't want you anymore. I don't want to be with you. Just let me die and release me. And he's like, well, I'll never let you go. You're never going to escape from me. And he suddenly goes from like being this guy who's like really romantic. I've kept her body and I want to bring her back to life. Suddenly he's like, well, tough, because you're going to be mine and I'm never going to let you go. There's no escape from me now.
Yeah.
The three guys upstairs, they get a bit lost. Puppet Man trips over a cable. It's the worst acting I've ever seen. He trips over like an electrical cable because I thought I was done for then. I got my puppet. It's like, what the fuck are you doing, mate? But anyway, Leatherman and his girlfriend, they're exploring downstairs and they trip and fall into the basement. And they decide, after all the things I've described, all the death, zombies, corpses, possession, let's get it on in the basement. On the basement floor. What better place to do it?
I don't even remember this.
And he says to her, I found some wine. And she's like, don't open that, Leatherman. Come. And he's like, no, come on, let's drink it. And it's disgusting. He spits it out. Then all of a sudden, the mud monsters arrive. This is like, I'm describing a fever dream to you, isn't it?
It feels like you're describing a dream I had the other day. Like, how'd you know my dream?
Now, these mud monsters, they kind of come out the ground, and as they walk and move, everything they do is just farting sounds, just to add to the weirdness of this film.
Yeah.
Apparently, some of the producers weren't keen on it, but the directors insisted, no, they have to make farting sounds because they're mud monsters. So they grab Leatherman and his girl, but they manage to fight them off, and they realise...
All that it does, in my mind, I'm watching that going, God, it must really be smelly in there. I don't think anything more than that. Why did they have to have fart sounds?
It's almost like, what were we watching recently where the whenever the cops showed up, they had silly music playing in the background?
Ow, 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 ow. It was it Halloween or was it Friday the 13th?
I think it was Halloween, wasn't it?
Yeah, Halloween 5.
What was that about?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, they thought that would be funny. So it's not.
Well, anyway,
it takes you out the movie, you know. Anyway.
Leatherman and his chick fight off these mudmen by finding out that they're allergic to wine. So they get an axe and they break open a big wine vat. The wine pours out, melts the mudmen, and they go back upstairs. They decide probably not a good idea to have sex right now. There's a lot of monsters in this mansion. Let's go back and find our friends. And that's what they do. Puppet Man gets attacked because he gets locked in a room. And his friend Carol the demon now, she attacks him. So he's probably going to be killed fairly soon. He actually gets killed a little bit later on. We'll see what happens to him in a minute.
We've got a couple that find a hanging person, and this has actually got better lighting. It actually has some shadows and stuff. It's actually like someone's actually thought this out. It's like, wow.
Yeah, I don't really know who this is that they find. But,
no, I haven't a clue. It's just at this point, it's just pictures in front of my eyes.
It is literally like a greatest hits of special effects, and
yeah, but
it's like a ghost train.
Yeah.
It's like a ghost train. While Puppet Man's locked in the room, because Carol vanishes, the demon, and he's like, well, if you're going to come and get me, Carol, then get it over with. I'm just going to take a piss in the fireplace then in that case. And he just starts pissing in the fireplace. While he's doing that, though, thank God that the pirate catboy werewolf kid opens the door for him and lets him out of the room. Doesn't think anything of it. He just pisses in the fireplace and leaves the room. The British girl, who I didn't realise was British until about halfway through the film, she's downstairs. She's like, I can hear some noises. What's all this noise? That's my British accent, Gav. Did you like it?
Yeah.
Quite good. convincing.
What is this noise?
What is all this noise? All the furniture starts to move and shake, and her fella and her have an argument, and he says, well, I'll tell you what, if you like guys that drink so much, I'm going to drink too. He takes one swig of a bottle, passes out cold, leaving his poor lady to worry about why the furniture is moving around. And that's when the Boglins arrive. Now, do you remember the Boglins?
Yeah.
Little toys that you put your hand in. They basically got the toy Boglins to attack the British lady and her fella. And these little creatures who are like rejects from the Ghoulies, Ghoulies 4, one of the later ones, they just start attacking her, and she pokes one with a fireplace poker.
Really terrible music score of random notes just playing horribly.
And they look...
It's really bad.
This scene
literally
is...
tone deaf composer.
This scene, the music, the effects, the acting, this is hands down probably the worst scene in the film. I hope Matthew's not getting too offended. But it is terrible. And she stabs one, she fights them off a bit. While all this is going on, Catman, the little cat boy, he's stood outside the window just dancing.
I think I wanted it to finish at this point. It's just like, please, can this finish now?
Yeah, that didn't quite happen yet though, does it?
No.
Because she heads upstairs and Creon says to his bride, your children are all here. She's like, what children? We only have a son. And Ebert says, son, come here. And it's the little blue vampire boy in a Jawa costume from earlier. He's their son. What the fuck? Why? I don't get it. And he says, all of my creatures are our children. I've used my darkest magics to summon them all. And they all do my bidding. And they're our children, my dear. And she's like, I told you not to bring me back from the dead. Now you're telling me there's zombies and fucking vampire boys that are supposed to be my kids. This is the worst day ever. Let me rot. And he says, no, I told you there's no escape. You'll never get away from me. That's that. British girl.
Is this where she's running along and meets some weird tentacle monster that strangles her?
Well, yeah, first of all, she sees the guy, her boyfriend that's just been killed, in a corridor. She's like, oh, David, you're okay. What are you doing? And he's like, come here.
David, what are you doing?
And then for no reason at all, he turns into the Gill Man.
Yeah, I know. I was just like,
with tentacles.
At this point, I think I was like, why didn't you just take some of the money it costs to make all these effects and make one or two good effects?
So listen to this sentence I'm about to say. Her boyfriend, who's dead, approaches her, turns into Gillman, who has tentacles that electrify her to death. Electric tentacles. Now that's a band name.
Electric tentacles, that's not bad. Then we've got a bit where someone walks through a cave and they kind of meet a woman that looks like she's from Thunderbirds, the puppet show from the 60s. She does. She looks like she meets one. And you're like, what's going on now?
And she's like, oh, I've come to help you. And he's like, oh, great. How can you help me?
Yeah.
I'm going to turn into a great big fucking spider woman and you're going to get stuck in my web. Then she sucks him dry, not in a good way either.
No. That would have been interesting if it had. And at this point, the film's just a scene, then there's just another scene, then there's a scene.
Then it
doesn't mean that the scenes are actually connected in any way.
Well, then we get a fight.
There's
Leatherman starts a fight with one of the other guys, and they start throwing each other around. It's quite good choreography, like busting each other around with chairs. And it's like wrestling.
It does feel a little bit like, because you got the synth notes, which feel like the Adam West Batman TV show. Yeah. Bow, bow, bow. But I did actually look, the fighting's quite funny, because when we get these low budget things, I've actually got kudos to the actors for doing the fight scenes, because the choreography by them's pretty decent. Those two, do you know what happened? Those two went off and they worked out what they're doing together, I would say, and they came back and said, this is what we've got, because they've actually spent some time on it. And I was like, that's really decent. And what you get with like low budget stuff, sometimes when you can't afford a stunt crew, you actually have to get some of the actors to do some of the stuff. But yeah, I thought this looks okay.
It looks good. It's like a cross between the 60s Batman show and a Western bar fight.
Yeah.
With a little bit of wrestling.
Absolutely fine. And also, it's shot like how a little bit, some of it's shot a little bit from a distance, kind of like how action shot now are, so we can actually see what's going on.
It's also got that a little bit of that James Bond fisticuffs to it.
Sean Connery-ish.
Yeah, like where it would have been undercranked a little bit.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So yeah, I quite enjoyed this bit, and especially because there's a big, while they're fighting, listeners, there is a big white statue of a Grim Reaper overlooking all of this, which then comes to life while they're fighting, because yes, we need another monster, and it slices the Leatherman, and then the other guy that the Leatherman was fighting does this move to get out of the room where he runs like Bruce Lee at the door that's locked, and he just flies like Superman with his arms out and goes straight through the door.
Yeah.
Wonderful move. And they all manage to get out the door because he smashed through the door with his Superman body. So they all escape. And then
I've got a bit. I see it because I don't even know where I'm going to notice. There's a bit where someone is pushed off a roof, or no, pushed or not pushed off, pushed into a road or something. But then they explode.
Yes. So the Grim Reaper that was just trying to kill those two, they all climb out for no reason. They climb out of a window onto the roof. It follows them out onto the roof. Then he goes up to it, pushes it off the roof. It lands, and then there's this gigantic explosion that's like bigger than a car exploding. And I'm like, what? Why did the Grim Reaper explode like a car bomb?
I don't know.
Something you might not notice, Gav. You know, I've got a keen eye for detail. Puppet Man, while he's in the spider web, about to get the life sucked out of him by the spider.
Getting sucked here.
Do you see what's on his T-shirt?
No.
He's got a picture of himself on his T-shirt with his puppet on his hand.
Wow.
Now, Matthew, did you notice that? Please let us know, because I noticed he's on his own T-shirt holding his puppet. That's how much of a brand he's trying to push for himself. Is he going to be the next sort of Gordon the Gopher? I don't know. Not anymore, because he's just been sucked off by the spider lady. But so yeah, the Grim Reaper explodes. They climb back in. They find a room full of artifacts. And this is where I thought, they're going to explain what's going on. And they're like, okay, so that picture up there is the Creon. He's the sorcerer that's in the attic controlling one of the... Instead, one of them just spills some acid. And she says, that's not normal acid. And that's about it, really. And then Carol the demon comes in to fight them with magic. She says, join us. She speaks with Creon's voice and says, we want your souls. Creon makes her head split open so that this like magic vortex wraps around them all, which makes everybody in the room age by about 50 years. The guy crawls towards the Carol to try and end the spell. And meanwhile, we cut back to the bride, because we forgot about the bride, who doesn't want to be with Creon anymore. She's running around being chased by the hook hand pirate cat werewolf zombie boy. And he's trying to catch her. And she's like trying to escape from the mansion. She stabs Creon in the head with a dagger. So he's dead now. The big baddie guy's been destroyed. She's killed him, her husband, after 70 years.
Yeah.
She climbs outside of the house. And then a zombie comes up to her and says, Mama?
This is weird. I know this movie's made no sense, but...
And then loads and loads and loads. Now we turn it into a zombie film.
Now, it definitely turns into an Italian zombie film, but actually looks like it's going to be a zombie gangbang. The whole time, it's very sexually, almost, the way she's dressed and running. Yeah. It looks like it's going to be a zombie gangbang.
Well, they start pulling her, because they pull her bridal dress off.
Yeah, and then they chase her for like 10 minutes.
It goes on. She runs around in circles, backwards and forwards. And there's about, fair play, they've got about 20 extras dressed as zombies, and they're all pretty well made up. And they just keep grabbing at her and piling on top of her. Then she escapes them. They pile on top of her again. And then we get this weird moment where she climbs down over a wall and finds a random man that's never even been in the film. What's he doing out in the middle of nowhere, out of his car? He says, who are you? She's like, help me. I need to get out of here. So they drive off in the car. And then she's like, oh, I'm so glad you rescued me. And and then he turns back into the Catboy Werewolf Pirate Kid.
Bang Wolf.
And Creon bursts out of the coffin at the end and laughs, and the Jawa boy is sat in the chair upstairs going, Dad, we did it. And I'm like, did what?
What in the Team effects happened here?
And we end on a freeze frame. My final notes say, that was weird. Like Phantasm in some ways.
Yep.
Now, look, that's the film.
That is the film. Thank you for that, Matthew.
Now listen, let's summarise this, because there are some good things to this.
I counted 3 things I liked.
It's not the worst film we've seen. Certainly not me. You know, I've seen some absolute atrocious
I've seen
stuff.
worse than this. For the fact of the effects and stuff. Okay, you carry on.
I can appreciate why it's got a cult following. This is the 3rd time I've seen it. I probably would never watch it again now. I've seen it 3 times.
Wow.
Don't need to. But that's not to say that I'm never going to yuck someone's yum. And if I'd have seen this at the same age as Matthew, this would definitely be one I'd be going back to a lot.
I didn't know what he meant then. I thought it was some weird sexual thing.
No, it's a common saying. Don't yuck someone's yum. Someone likes something, you know.
But no, I've never heard it.
But at the same time, it's such a weird film. You kind of have to see it to know what the hype is about. But it's once you've seen it, you'll be like, well, I've seen that now. I don't ever have to watch it again.
Yeah.
A bit like, funnily enough, Salo, which I saw for the first time ever about 2 months ago. And I know Matthew mentioned that in his email. I've seen it now. I never need to see it again. Kind of wish I hadn't seen it, really. But there we go. But I will give this 2 scores. I'm not going to give this a thumbs up. As a film, I'm going to give this a thumbs down, which I don't do very often, Gav.
No.
However, if you've never seen it before, which a lot of people haven't,
no, I haven't.
I would definitely say check it out with the right amount of enhancement, if you know what I'm saying. Have a drink, have a smoke, whatever it is you do to get loose. Big bar of chocolate, whatever it is. You'll definitely get a kick out of it. You can turn your brain off and just watch this absolutely crazy roller coaster ride of weird special effects, nonsensical plot, terrible acting, and some weird choices in direction and lighting and production. But once you've seen it, you don't have to watch it again. But I don't hate it. I just don't need to watch it again.
I didn't really like it. I give it thumbs down. Don't bother watching it.
That's your first time watching it?
Yep. Sorry.
It's fucking batshit, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just I'm so impatient nowadays. I just am. I struggle with life, finding time to do stuff, and I couldn't. If I had free will of the vast library of the world of cinema, I'm never going to choose this freely.
But that's the beauty of Patreon Picks. We get told what to watch and we watch it.
Matthew, you made us watch it, so thank you.
Would you watch this or Hansel and Gretel again?
Hansel and Gretel, definitely.
I might just go off and watch that donkey scene with the custard just for the laugh.
Repeat, yeah.
That is one of my favourite moments of podcasting with you in 11 years. I thought you might die from laughing at that point.
Yeah, that was quite funny. I still like the bee attacking me.
The bee attacking.
Let's get out of here because we've got a proper conversation coming up.
Well, Bill Murray's coming over.
I know he is.
He's strapping me down.
He's wearing that black PVC suit from that movie.
That's pretty cool. He's got the puppet. Where are you putting the puppet?
He's actually got all the zombies with him as well.
He's got the puppet on, not on his hand.
Oh, well, how's it move? Oh,
it's moving up and down.
Moving like that.
Pretty cool.
Right, okay then, Bill, take us away.
Hi, welcome back to World of the Strange.
It's a strange world. Well, thank you, Bill Murray. He's undone the straps and let me sit up for this.
I'm glad.
Now, the reason I am almost strapped down is because tying into Clockwork Orange, which famously involves a government experiment.
Yeah.
I've got a list of some real life scary government experiments that actually happened.
Okay.
You'd like this?
Yeah, definitely.
You love experiments.
Is it like Stranger Things or something?
It's kind of along those lines, yeah, because Stranger Things was inspired by the Montauk project, wasn't it?
Are you going to do MK Ultra?
That is on my list, Gav,
Of course it is.
Well, let's start off with a cat, a spy cat. This is a bit cruel, so a little bit of a trigger warning here. In fact, a few of these are to do with animals, so you might want to skip.
Don't listen, Sarah.
In the 60s, during the Cold War, espionage, as you know, was the name of the game. So there is something quite interesting happened in America. The CIA, they got $10 million budget.
$10 million
to set up a cat as a spy cat. So let me explain what they did to the cat. They implanted microphones into this cat. They put an antenna in the cat's tail. This is a real cat. And a battery. So they inserted a battery, microphones, and an antenna into the tail of this cat. And basically, they were going to use this cat to just sort of put it into bad guys' properties.
They think it's James Bond, and he's going to be stroking the cat.
This little cat here.
I have him as my evil cat sitting on my lap.
Here's what we're going to do to the President of the United States. I'll just tell you now while I'm stroking this cat. Like that was going to happen.
That's amazing.
However, before they could even send it off on its first mission, the cat seemed to be acting a little bit crazy. Not surprised, it's got a battery, microphones, and antenna implanted into it, and it ran off and basically committed suicide. It ran under a speeding taxi and was crushed to death before they could even use it. So all that surgery, $10 million. $10 million to do this
fucking
to a cat.
Dickheads.
60s for you. What do you think of that?
Dickheads. Absolute dickheads. Fucking knobs.
Right, well, let's move on to my next story, which is head transplants.
Okay.
You heard of this one?
No.
Okay. So, in 1954, doctors performed a human organ transplant. So that was the first human organ transplant. It was a kidney. So, there possibly could be a head transplant someday. Wow. Let's get into that, shall we? Because there already was one. Because in 1908, a US surgeon called Charles Guthrie successfully transplanted a dog's head onto another dog's neck.
Oh my God.
This was all funded by the American government. Later on, in 1951, Vladimir Demikov, a Soviet surgeon, attempted to perform a canine upper body transplant. Now, what he did was he transplanted the shoulders and head of one dog, a puppy, onto a larger dog's head.
What the fuck?
And they lived for quite some time until eventually there was a rejection of the tissue and the organs. But I think one of them lived for a month. So you'd have had this like little puppy's front legs and head on a big German shepherd's body.
That's so weird.
Wondering, what the fuck's going on? Why have I got this big back?
No, what dogs don't know, do they?
Well, I don't know. I think they might. They also did, in 1970, a head transplant of a monkey onto another monkey's body.
Okay.
And that worked for a time.
Because obviously, getting to the point where we're like, right, we can now do it to humans. Yeah. No. I
mean, it worked with Nicolas Cage and John Travolta.
Still not seen it.
We know. Fuck off.
You said this last time, and I said I didn't want to watch John Travolta for that long.
Yeah, but it's Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, it's what you said last time too.
And it's John Travolta doing an impression.
No, because it's going to confuse my head.
It's so good.
I'm like, who do I not like? I don't understand. I'm
it's
confused.
John Woo.
Who I don't like.
It might have to be a birthday pick for me soon.
Ugh.
I think coming up. Or if any of our patrons want Gav to watch Face Off, do it.
Yeah, I'm just not a fan of John Travolta.
Okay, well, the next one is quite a sad and real. All of these are real cases, and you may have heard of this one. This is the Tuskegee syphilis experiment.
No.
Really bad. This is
putting syphilis into people.
Yeah. So the Tuskegee syphilis experiment involved a study of untreated syphilis among the black male population. So, in the name of receiving free treatment, this study turned into an infamous tragedy, attracting widespread condemnation. So 600 men, all black guys, enrolled for this project. And the scientists in charge carried out the study from 1932 to 1972. 399 of these men had latent syphilis, 201 men provided the experimental control, and doctors from the Public Health Service in the US monitored the project. But instead of giving the men recommended penicillin treatment, they gave them fake treatments, placebos, including mineral supplements and aspirin, and they just wanted to test them and see what happens to syphilis over many years. 28 of the men died as a direct result of syphilis, and 100 more died of syphilis-related complications. 40 of their wives contracted the disease as well.
Wow.
And 19 women gave birth to syphilis-infected children as well. This is like the black community.
Yeah.
And in 1997, US President Bill Clinton did a speech and a public apology to the survivors of their families and said it was a profoundly and morally wrong experiment that we conducted. I should imagine there was some payout as well to any of the surviving families, but that is absolutely horrendous. That's almost up there with kind of what was happening with the Jews with Hitler, just experimenting on a population of people just because, do you know what I mean?
Because
tricking them.
But yeah.
Oh, guys, if you've got syphilis, come here. We'll give you some. No, we're not really going to give you anything. We're just going to see what happens to you over the next few years.
Cunts,
awful.
So many cunts throughout the world. Still are right now.
Yeah, and at least there was a presidential apology for that. Not that it makes it any better, but it was, it was noted.
Yeah, while they're apologising behind scenes, behind doors, they're doing something just as bad and ruthless.
Yeah. Really weird. Okay, on to the next one then. So this one is called the zombie dog experiment. You like this one?
Okay.
2 Russian scientists once released controversial videos featuring dog heads being kept alive, just the heads.
Oh my gosh, reanimator.
Through an artificial blood circulation system.
Wow.
The released videos were known as experiments. They were called experiments in the revival of organisms. In these controversial videos, the scientists used...
Those dogs would be so traumatised.
Yeah, just a head.
Yeah.
They used something called an autojector, which was a piece of special heart and lung equipment to display the dog heads, which were blinking, licking their mouths and wiggling their ears in response to sound around them.
Wow.
And in 2005, American scientists... So this is 2005, 20 years ago, that's all. American scientists repeated the same experiment by flushing the dog's blood out of its body completely and replacing it with a sugar-filled saline and oxygen. The dogs came back and lived for 3 hours with no blood in the body, just this replacement sort of thing.
What was the purpose of this experiment?
To show that you can bring back
organs.
Dead organs or dead...
Yeah, not for long though.
It's basically Frankenstein. Yeah. It's basically Frankenstein.
Any messing with death and life and transferring of organs and bodies to other things is Dr. Frankenstein.
But again, I know I gave that trigger warning, but again, those poor dogs, man, just that.
They might not.
They're not.
It might have been.
Straight.
Yeah, it might just be confusion and just the. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, because they say, as we all know, that they say that the human head lives for around 20 seconds after being beheaded, but who fucking knows that? No one actually knows that,
I'm still alive!
Look at me!
I love the gag in Severance, because he's arguing earlier on, one of the guys is arguing that the head can't do that. Then it happens to him. He's like, oh no, he's arguing with people saying it can do that. Then it happens to him, and because he's so like, yeah, I'm right, he's sitting there with his head going, because he's so happy he's right, and then he dies.
Yeah, well.
Okay.
Yeah. I've got a couple more.
Go on.
MK Ultra.
Yep.
CIA. It's one of the most famous ones.
Well, you've got Marilyn Manson, for fuck's sake. You've got Charles Manson documentary just come on Netflix. I've not seen it yet, but the idea of MK Ultra is with Manson as well and what's going on. But go on, carry on.
Yeah, so in brief, the CIA intended to develop a mind control technique. This is crazy. This is like something out of science fiction.
And they did this to so many people.
So that they could unleash it on their enemies during war. So they carried out the project, the MK Ultra project, from 1950 to 1970. So 20 years. You know, it wrapped up 7 or 8 years before we were born. That was all. The primary goal was to put America in the lead of mind control technology. However, in time, the project degenerated into an illegal drug testing regime which targeted thousands of people.
Yeah.
Thousands. They used drugs and chemicals like LSD to inflict psychological torture on their experiments. They even tried to manipulate victims' mental states by altering brain functions. And, yeah, I mean, you can really go down, if you want to go down a good YouTube rabbit hole that involves, as Gav said, you know, Charles Manson and many other things. And it's touched on in so many films. Even, I think, is it in not the Pineapple Express? It is the Pineapple Express, I think.
I think it is Pineapple Express.
Yeah, they jokingly touch on it in there, you know, because they use different strains of weed, LSD, multiple different things to try and get different results, mind control, sound waves, music.
They were just trying loads of different stuff and just without the public knowing.
It's pretty crazy. Probably one that you guys should cover on your on the High Strangers podcast.
The last podcast on the left did a series on it, which was quite interesting. I don't know if I'm not sure. We might have gone through that stuff before slightly in an episode. I'm not sure, but yes,
I think you touched on it because I think you did some Marilyn Manson, not Marilyn, I'm doing it now, some Charlie Manson stuff. But yeah, it's pretty fucking mental, and like I said, a good rabbit hole if you ever want to go down it.
Yeah,
I've got two more then. We've got one that's regenerating dead human cells, so we're back to zombies again. Frankenstein. So again, it's going to sound like science fiction, but scientists tried to grow human brains on a mouse. Now we've seen them grow fingers and ears on the mouse before. So they discovered they could
a massive human brain on top of a mouse's head.
Like Pinky and the Brain.
My head's so heavy.
Well, have you ever seen the mouse with the ear on the back of it? They've grown an ear. It's weird, man. So scientists discovered they could dry a pig bladder tissue into a type of powder, and this powder could then be used to regrow human fingers. And they found that the pig bladder lining cells commonly contain a unique protein that boosted the tissue growth. So like a lizard regrows its tail, basically. So their goal was for an amputee, or you lose a finger or an arm.
Right. Basically, we're going to grow your finger on a little mouse farm. It's basically a mouse, and he is the farm, and he's just got different fingers growing out of him as he runs around. What the fuck are you talking about? Have I just woken up in some nightmare?
No, the good news is, Gavin, you were in that horrific car crash, and you did lose your left arm. But the good news is. You've been in a coma for 3 weeks. We've already grown half your arm on the back of a mouse. So give us another couple of months. We'll have a full arm for you, and we'll reattach it. You okay?
It'll be perfect. It's just grown on a mouse. What do you mean it's grown on a mouse?
The only thing is, when you lift up your arm, in the armpit, you've got a little mouse tail that sort of wiggles around.
There is an issue where you might be rubbing your nose at times and wanting cheese, but
you will really be into cheese.
But it's worth it for another arm. You're just gonna have quite a cheese intake.
If that's one of the symptoms, that might have already happened to me because I am quite addicted to cheese. So
maybe a mouse has grown a part of you and you've had it sewn on you. Hopefully not your cock. So Daniel, the accident. I'm afraid you lost your penis. It's the weirdest thing. You had a car crash, and literally, I don't know how, the only scar or anything on you, there's not even a cut anywhere, your penis came off. I don't know how, but it's not a problem.
Not again.
We've got a mouse over there in that cage. See that mouse running around? It keeps getting stuck because something's hitting the wheel as it goes around. Pang, pang, pang. That's your new cog.
And all the mice are going, look at Dick back.
I mean,
Dick
penis.
back.
Sorry, sir. Penis. I shouldn't say cock.
Where would they grow it on the mouse, though? They'd have to grow it on its head, so it'd be like a proper dickhead mouse.
But anyway, that's your pin. No, don't. Oh, he's nibbling it again. Doctor, he's nibbling my cock.
They tried to grow human stem cells as well in the brain of a mouse.
Yep.
And they've used similar treatments to develop new fingertips. Like I said, they've reattached severed fingers, and they actually regenerated an Iraqi war victim's destroyed muscles with this technology as well. So they're on the right track. I thought you were going to say they restored an Iraqi who died, and they just grew him on the back of a mouse. What am I doing? What's going on? They can carry on screaming when they get the finger and they regenerate it.
Yeah. What's happening? This mouse is like, this is so heavy.
No, but what if they have to grow him on like 24 different mice and there's
it's
a bit of him growing?
This is turned into the worst body horror movie I don't want to see ever.
It's like a foot on one of the mouse.
It's turned into The Substance or something.
Well, that one is. They're on the right track there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we've talked about it in World of the Strange once, where someone's hand was severed and they sewed it back onto his chest while his limbs sort of healed, and then at the right time they could unsew it from his chest and put it back on. And someone's had their dick on their arm. Do you remember that guy who had a dick sewn? His dick was, I don't know what happened to it, but they sewed it onto his arm for a few months while his body sort of healed. But you couldn't ever roll your sleeves up at that point, could you? You'd be like, oh, it's getting hot in here. Don't roll your sleeves up, Dad. Everyone will see your dick.
Daniel, okay, this is going to be bad news for you. I know there's been an accident and you've woken up.
Why is it always me?
Because it is. Unfortunately, you've lost literally your legs, the whole bottom half. You're literally half of you. But if you take a look over here, we've brought a big pen into the hospital. If you look over here, actually, it's quite interesting. It's a panda bear, and if you look on his back, he's got a load of legs with a little pair of Nike trainers just hanging off at the end. That's your new leg, sir.
Or, if you want, we can attach a German Shepherd's lower half.
The panda can't stay there. He keeps running away with your legs. Oh, what did you say?
I said, or if you want, you can have a German Shepherd's lower half attached back onto you.
Do that.
Well, I've got one more for you. It's a little bonus one at the end.
All right.
Spider genes in goats.
What, like for Levi 501s?
Genes as in DNA.
Ah.
That would be cool, though, if a goat was just wearing jeans.
Where'd you get it from, Spider? What?
Spider-Man.
Hasn't the spider got 8 legs? Nah.
So, a team of scientists succeeded in inserting the genes of a silk spider into goats. Once they did this, the goat's milk then contained a protein that forms silk.
What?
Hang on. In turn, this literally makes it possible to harvest massive quantities
Spider goats.
So they can basically make
spider
silk.
goats. Oh.
Yeah, but they can make silk from goat's milk, which rhymes nicely. Experts consider spider silk to be 5 times stronger than ordinary steel, as we know. You know, there's that whole thing to make bulletproof vests. So basically, they've done this, so they can then milk. Then they can milk goats and go, right, we got enough milk to make you a bulletproof vest. So
they're doing this because people like killing each other, so we have to have bulletproof vests. I've got an idea, because we like killing each other, because we're fucking idiots of humankind. Let's make things to stop us getting the ones killed.
Bring in the goat.
Bring the goat in and the spider over there. We're going to make... What are you talking about, Captain? Have you been on the MK Ultra?
And then an 8-legged spider goat walks in.
As Dan's wheeled in with all these animals. All of you do my bidding. Grow me parts of my body.
It's like a cross between The Fly
and Ace Ventura.
Well, I was going to say The Islands of Dr. Moreau, but all of that.
All of them.
So to summarise,
Jim Carrey on Dr. Moreau as a fly.
So to summarise, that last one is basically they milk these goats that have got spider silk DNA in them, and then they can use their milk to make silk that they then turn into bulletproof vests.
Is this a part of that movie we just reviewed?
It feels like it. Feels like it. So thanks to these goats.
Oh, man.
Gary, you got shot in the chest.
Don't worry about it.
I'm wearing
Spider goats.
Goat's milk silk. Goat's milk
Goat
silk.
silk.
I want this in the next Marvel film.
Got silk?
Spider goat.
Got silk?
Maybe was that in the Marvel Spider-Verse? That cartoon one? Goat Spider? I don't know if he was in that one.
Yeah, there was. Yeah. Dude, you just make we haven't even started talking about Clockwork Orange, for fuck's sake.
I know. Bill,
Christ almighty.
Bill, can you help me with those body parts
please,
of
Bill,
animals lying around?
Please.
Well, before you go, though, Gav.
Yeah.
If you did lose your lower half, and you could choose any animal, you can't have human, any animal to have the lower half of that, dolphin, lion, whatever it is, what would you have as the lower half?
Lower half?
Any animal. Bear, horse. Think how cool it'd look, like a centaur.
Oh, fuck it, I'm there. Don't worry, I'm going through every animal in my head right now. I'm picturing me.
His brain's gone like this.
I think I might go cheetah so I can go really fast.
Little skinny spotty legs.
I've got little skinny legs anyway. I can go really fast.
Fair enough.
I've been down the gym trying to get... I haven't been skipping leg day, right? But they don't do anything. They do not look any better. My upper half keeps getting bigger, but my bottom half doesn't. It's really annoying.
Into Johnny Bravo.
It's really annoying. Yeah.
Well, I think I'd probably go for a shark lower half.
Shark, yeah. Half man, half shark. That's a Dr. Octagon song.
Yeah.
Cool, Keith.
It is. I think I'd probably have lower shark.
No one liked this the other day. On Facebook the other day, someone put a picture up and there's this dude, just loads of teeth or whatever, this kind of guy, and someone said, what's this rapper's name? And I said, Cool Teeth. And literally not one person liked that. And I was like, oh. Probably didn't even know who Cool Keith is. I know. I was like, Cool Teeth, like Cool Keith. Okay.
Right, let's end this experiment. Bill, please take us out of here. Take these clamps off my bollocks. Jesus Christ.
Well, actually, we're going to experiment on you, aren't we, Bill? Bill?
That's all the time we've got for this week on World of Strange. Next week, though, gimme Ira. Hairless pets. Weird.
There was me, that is Alex, and my 3 droogs, that is Pete, Georgie, and Dim. And we sat in the Corova milk bar trying to make up our razoo docs what to do with the evening. The Corova milk bar sold Milk Plus, which is what we were drinking. This would sharpen you up and make you ready for a bit of the old ultra-violence.
Hi there, my little droogies.
The evening's the great time, isn't it, Alex Boy?
He's enterprising, aggressive, young, bold, vicious. He'll do.
Who on earth could that be?
Now it was lovely music that came to my aid, a bit of the old Ludwig van.
Pretty well, little brother. Pretty well. It'll be your own torture. I hope to God it'll torture you to madness. Stop it, please, I beg you! Food, all right. Great, sir, great. Try the wine.
It was gorgeousness and gorgeosity made flesh.
So, A Clockwork Orange from 1971, rated R. 2 hours and 16 minutes. Alex Delage and his droogs barbarize a decaying near future. And that is it. That is the synopsis. Directed, of course, by the late, great Stanley Kubrick, from the book by Anthony Burgess, which I've got and I've read, but adapted with Kubrick did some screenplay stuff work on this as well. Notorious film, probably one of Kubrick's top 3 films, along with obviously The Shining, and then take your pick really, because he really did some masterful stuff. Clockwork Orange, Gav, the first time you saw it?
A friend of mine was getting me into Stanley Kubrick. He was just watching a lot of sort of cinema, which no one else was kind of watching. I say that, I mean, it's in like we were watching the normal movies or whatever's out, Rambo, Rocky, whatever. Do you know what I mean? And this was probably sort of the 90s, actually, sort of early mid 90s. And he's just like, "Oh, do you know Stanley Kubrick?" And I was like, "No." We sat and watched 2001 and this, and some other bits and bobs. And that was the only time I watched it apart from this, for this. But it's sometimes with films, I don't need to watch them again almost. I'll go to the cinema and even like The Substance, for example, if I never watch The Substance ever again, that's actually okay with me, because I know the film, it was such a lot. At the time, it was an event watching it. This Clockwork Orange was a little bit like that as well. It was like, what is this? But same with like The Simpsons, for example. You watch Simpsons when you're younger, then you watch The Simpsons when you're older, and you see it hits differently. The gags hit different. Watching this as a 48-year-old rather than an 18-year-old or whatever I was, probably around that. It was really interesting to watch again, that's for sure.
For sure.
Where were you when you watched it?
I saw this at the cinema in my hometown. Everyone had heard about it. Because everyone thought it was banned. It wasn't banned at all in the UK. It was withdrawn by Stanley Kubrick. He didn't want it shown in the UK because he was worried that it would influence the youth. Ironically, he was worried that the youth would form gangs and go out and commit crimes and rape and robbery. I think that might have already happened, Stanley. But so I think it was about 99 when the film, because he died in 99, so it would have been not long after that they were like, "Oh great, he's dead, we can pop this out now in the UK," which is crazy. So I went to see it in one of the art house cinemas.
Isn't it disrespectful? But
it is, isn't it?
At the same time, you're like, but people saw the merits of this film. Public should see it.
So I'd say it was probably about 2000, so about 25 years ago I saw this in the cinema with a friend of mine back then, and I didn't get it really, exactly as you've just said. I didn't really get it, but I knew I was blown away by it. I just didn't really get it. It was a visual and oral, as in sounds and sight and everything. It was crazy. It's assault.
Kind of like 2001 when I watched that though, because I was watching that going, I've seen Star Wars, I've seen The Thing, I've seen these science fiction movies set in space or whatever, Alien. What's this? This is like really grounded but not grounded, and just kind of weird but not weird, and there's monkeys hitting it. It's just kind of dreamlike, like the movie before in a sense, like that. And this was kind of it. That's why it's the filmmakers themselves. There's one person's vision going on here. But Clockwork Orange is very much like that as well. It's a very dreamlike film.
Yeah. So I think it was 2000 I probably saw it, and then I bought it on DVD. It came out on DVD, obviously, in the UK then, and I bought it just because I used to just buy everything. I still have the copy on DVD, and I'll never get rid of that. And I've probably watched this. I'd say this is probably about my 5th or 6th time of watching it. It's not a film I've watched a bazillion times, but it's definitely a film I know. But strangely, and it might be because this is the first time I've watched it since becoming a dad, and, not that I've suddenly become more mature or anything, but I don't know, just in my 40s now, like you said, not far off 50 now, similar to you, I'm only a year behind you, you just see it differently. And Matthew summed it up really in his email. It's strangely relevant again with the whole gang crime, especially in the UK. We've got a lot of knife gang crime going on. And then I've just talked about all those government experiments in World of the Strange. There are some really weird, almost
parallels.
Yeah, it's odd.
Well, we're at a place, really, aren't we, in society where the government's not trusted, but the government will try and go ahead and try these experiments of different types. Do you know what I mean? I'm using it almost like a metaphor, but obviously they do experiments, but different experiments to try and tackle youth, and it's not actually dealing with what the actual issue is with youth and why youths are out there with knives. It's not just try and take the youth with a knife. Why does the youth feel like it has to have a knife? That's the question you should be asking, and getting to the root of it and nip it in the bud early on. And that comes down to, we're not getting into this now, but it comes down to lack of fatherhood or whatever, and society. And then when you got a distrust going on, and then say certain governments, whatever their ideas are, and then pushing it onto the police and taking money from the police. And the police are stressed, and the policemen are out on the beat are stressed, and then they give shit to the kid. The kid's like, what the fuck all gives me shit? And it's just a ball of anger which keeps on rolling, unfortunately, and getting bigger. And it's like Kubrick. Well, it comes from a book, doesn't it?
Anthony Burgess, a really, really good book. Quite a
what
very
other
short
stuff
book.
does this person or did write?
I don't actually know. The only book of his I own is that one. I'm sure he's written other things.
But it's like it's almost like a dystopian future. Yeah. But unfortunately, I think maybe they were thinking of this time where we are now.
I do think that this is Kubrick's best film. I do really think that, and I love The Shining, and I love a lot of his work, but I do think that this is his best film in that he got to really be Kubrick in this.
Very creative.
Really creative. The fact it's set in a dystopian future, he just kind of got to do whatever the fuck he wanted with regards to set design, colours,
it's
sound.
Great. It's great. Some of the locations of the buildings, it's all a lot of very grey concrete, but we've got this sort of architecture here and there, which is very artsy 70s, loads of lines and just weird stuff. But it's great for him to use those perfectly to make this seem like another world. Like the beginning when they're in that sort of club and there's just these naked lady model
table
I don't know if they're real or not, these people.
No, they're not. They're just mannequins.
Okay, they look very realistic as tables, and just all these guys in this place, and it's just it sets it straight away. Sets the film straight away. It is in like we're about to go on a journey somewhere now with this film, when he's staring at you in the face,
with the Kubrick,
and the camera slowly pans back, it's saying to you, here we go.
And that's one of his trademarks, isn't it? The Kubrick stare, the bathroom scenes. This is really where he started developing his style and his blueprint of what he does in a lot of his movies. What I also really like about this, and I don't know if this would hit differently outside of the UK, but it's such an intrinsically British film.
Yeah.
With all the accents and the locations, but also it's that thing that I absolutely love is where in the 60s or the 70s where they did a film that was set in the future, but it's done in the future of what they thought the future would be like at that time. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it isn't really the future, but it's like another world altogether.
I love you almost have like a futuristic Cockney type thing going on.
Yeah, I mean that's the whole thing, isn't it? The language,
dialogue and the language, the way it's said, and is it's very much like a dream. Really
but then
is.
With that, and we will get into the plot in a minute, but even with that, if you went back to the 70s and you said this is what language they're going to speak in 2025, I don't even understand a lot of what the young kids are saying, with their skibbity toilet and all this nonsense, which isn't nonsense to them, it's their...
I know some of them what it means.
But you know what I mean? Oh, it's so cap and all this stuff, like... But then I said,
but it's just a different dialogue. Yeah, we said stuff.
I said, we still say, me and you still say dope and whack and stuff like that. That was probably quite 80s.
I remember being at school. This is how cool I am. I remember being at school and saying, yeah, that's old school. And these people looked at me and said, what are you talking about? This was like 93. What are you saying? I got it from skate magazines, so I know what was going on. But yeah.
We used to say safe. When something was really good or really cool, we'd say, yeah, that's safe. Really safe.
This is a really interesting film.
It is, and there's a lot of trivia with this. We'll get into some of it. I want to talk about though Malcolm McDowell.
Yeah, and Kubrick. If very quickly on with Kubrick, if we're talking off air about this, if you didn't know, he was terrified of flying, and that's why you never got a Kubrick film like set elsewhere. If you look at Full Metal Jacket, it's actually shot in England.
Yeah.
So wow, okay, that's crazy. The Philippines, no, that's England.
By the way, we were talking about the language. It's based on sort of old literature in Shakespearean type language, mixed in with other stuff as well.
It's really interesting. But you were about to say about Malcolm McDowell. Very quickly.
Well, just before you get that, sorry, I just wanted to say as well, another weird fact about Kubrick is because no one knew he was a bit of a recluse in some ways, although he worked, in some big Hollywood films and stuff.
Oh, I know what you're saying.
No one knew what he looked like.
That's funny.
So people would come to his house. Oh, Stanley Kubrick at home. We want to talk to him about a new project, and he'd say, "Oh no, he's not home at the moment," and he'd just shut the door on them.
Yeah, because they didn't know. Yeah,
they didn't know who he was.
Apparently, he had quite a really good, strong relationship with Malcolm McDowell on Clockwork Orange. Then he never spoke to him again.
They were like best friends for the whole filming of this,
and then never spoke to him again.
Malcolm was like, "He never spoke to me again after this."
It does happen though in films. You like just that film, like you hear it so many times and people say like, "Yeah, I never saw that person again" or whatever. It's like, just for that, you're intensely with them continuously for 10 months or whatever. Then that's it. Never see him again.
He had 16 cats as well.
And obviously we know Kubrick was famous for at times filming many takes. I've heard also though at times he wouldn't do many takes at all, 2 or 3 takes, and he'd be totally happy and get good performances. But we've heard him doing over 100 takes, where someone like Ridley Scott says if you do more than 3 takes you don't know what you're doing. And I don't know, put Ridley Scott's movies next and then Clockwork Orange, Stanley Kubrick together up there, I don't know, they're both good filmmakers. His
favourite film, he quotes his favourite film of all time, or at least one of his favourite films of all time, is Eraserhead by the late great David Lynch. And his 3 favourite TV shows of all time were Seinfeld, Roseanne, and The Simpsons.
Nice. It's a product. That's definitely 90s TV there.
Imagine Kubrick tuning in for Roseanne. Roseanne's son. Yeah, I can imagine him watching Simpsons though, because that's quite satirical. But Roseanne, I just wouldn't see it really.
Yeah.
But there we go. But yeah, Malcolm McDowell's performance is incredible.
Great. Yeah.
Absolutely mind blowing in this.
Well, it's that sort of thing, isn't it? Like Jack Nicholson and Shining.
Yeah.
That performance.
Yeah. And that's Kubrick drawing it out of him, I would say.
That's
obviously, they're talented actors. That's why Kubrick drawing out of them as well.
Kind of amusing that Tom Cruise thought he could do that as well.
Oh dear, Tommy, just stick to running around.
Just jump out of airplanes. Come on.
You love Tom Cruise, though. I love Tom Cruise.
He is an entertaining person to watch on camera in a film.
He sells tickets, doesn't he?
He is an oddball, but yeah.
Yeah. It's just crazy, really. But Malcolm McDowell is incredible in this.
They've just released the new footage put in, so it's actually the film it's supposed to be intended, not by the producers came in and put loads of porn into it. It was what's it called? Caligula. That's the one. They've just released that, and I watched a trailer for it out of interest the other day, and he looks the same age as when he did Clockwork Orange in it, and his performance in that, you can see the way he's talking. It's like he's in that same world of acting where he was when he's young and hungry.
He's like Oliver Reed and that
real come from theatre, and you're hungry for it, and you're going to go out there and do stuff which is not safe.
Funny that he ended up being in a lot of crap towards the end, of his career. It was
paying bills, though, isn't it? Again, it's like we talked about. Well, I don't know. We get to that. I think I might turn around on that first Halloween's not too bad.
Yeah.
I was thinking Rob Zombie's. No, he was in the later ones, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Or was it in
or
the
was it
Rob
Rob Zombies?
No, it was the Rob Zombies.
Yeah, no, that's not too bad. Yeah.
Yeah, but even so, it's like, wow, weird. And he's been in like real, like straight to video stuff recently.
I'm kind of looking forward to when we get to Rob Zombie's Halloween to review it, because we've got that coming up.
Yeah.
Got him.
Well, let's get into this, because this film has got everything in it, including Darth Vader and a pair of Speedos, and we'll get to that. But he's there, a little tiny pair of Speedos with little glasses on.
Did you say infamously this was pulled from the cinema?
I did mention it, yeah, that Kubrick pulled it, which is why.
What a thing! And release it and be like, he must have been like pressured by people or investors or whatever to release it, and then maybe he had it already planned, but it's like, I have to release it because I want to, but then I'm saying no, I think it's bad and put it straight away. But that's crazy.
Only in UK cinemas though, only UK distributors.
Why?
Because he was worried about the youth, the British
youth. Then
youth.
again, there was no internet and that, and he probably didn't give a shit about anyone else but apart from England.
I mean, there are dark stories we hear about Kubrick, and he didn't give a shit. You know, and Shelley Duvall, some of the stuff that we hear about the Shining set and the multiple takes, but I don't know, like you said, it's all hearsay.
I know. I know that he was doing that to her and he's pushing her to the limit.
And you can say that about a lot of the big directors. You know,
you can watch the documentary his daughter did.
Yeah, Hitchcock wasn't particularly nice to the women on set. I'm not saying it was just women, but
Hitchcock's thoughts on actors are that they're just things to do what he wants. Yeah, he had no real care at all for them.
Yeah,
I think Hitchcock was more about the whole picture, as in every department, and I don't think he just didn't really care. They're there just to do what's on the script. So everyone has different techniques and different ways of doing things. It's very interesting, and I'd love to be able to, if I was like some god, I'd love to be able to go, right, I'm actually going to take Hitchcock and I'm going to put him in, he was born in 2000, but he still goes on to make movies, but I want to see what movies he makes in 2030.
Well, your favourite thing, AI will do that for you sometimes.
Yeah, but that's not. You need people growing up with certain way they grow up, what their interests them as a young, what that makes them turn into the person they are, which turns into what they decide and around them, and what's the right creative output for them at that time and space. That's what makes art so amazing. It's because it's what happened there and then. Does that make sense? Like, I love found footage movies. Like Amanda, there's takes where I could have done other takes and things, but I love just filming it and doing like one take and that's it, because it's what happened there and then at that moment in time. Yeah. You're encapsulating it, and you do it over painting and all these other things. So I think what you grow around you turns you into what creative output you put out there, and obviously what generation you're born in or whatever. So I'd love to see that. That'd be amazing.
I think with Kubrick, he did love music and the arts. He was a jazz drummer and things like that. And I think he falls into the same category as people like David Lynch, who again had their fingers in lots of art projects. You know, it wasn't just film. And
music as well. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you can even include John Carpenter and
John Carpenter's a musician.
There is probably a good dozen directors that you would put into this category they're out there. They do what the fuck they want.
Yeah.
They're known for film, but they do other stuff like music or painting or art or video games or whatever it is. But they are very much just them, and they will never, ever, ever change. And whether some of that stuff is bad because they've got certain views, whatever it is, but you're getting this raw, incredible art from them.
Do you think, I'm quite chucking it in my head now, like Tarantino and, say, Kubrick and John Carpenter. These directors that have, sorry about my throat, these directors that have the music being a massive part of their DNA of them as a director. Like Tarantino, not a musician, but music is a massive part of how he designs his films. So they're all quite out there directors, aren't they? Like John Carpenter, who's a composer himself. They're not box pigeonholed. They are quite out there, and that's like you say. It's the artists with all around them. They might even be artists themselves, painters, like traditional artists, you know. So yeah, it's encapsulating that whole artisticness.
And there's two more that I would include, and I'm just enjoying this conversation at the moment before we get into the film. Spielberg, although he always works with Williams, the way he views things and his art and his mind, and the way he brings John Williams into the majority of what he does, that's very much, they go hand in hand. And I would also include, and this is going to sound weird, but Jordan Peele, he puts a lot of thought into the music and the score and the soundtrack, particularly even just with his trailers. For some of his films. I know he's only done a couple of movies so far on Jordan Peele.
Well, but I feel creating a film is creating a painting. I sit there, but it's a painting of all different sonics and visuals and different forms and different layers. It's not a painting which is on canvas with just one set of oils and you can sit there. It is that, but it's all of these things make the painting, which is the film. So, and
I think my favourite of them all, with regards to that, is Argento, because he does he does all of this.
And look at him with what he's done with the colour, then Goblin. Just those two things: the colour palette scheme of Argento, then the music, then the mix of those two. It's very out there, and what comes from that are very out there films.
I bet you Kubrick loved Suspiria.
Oh, I imagine that he liked Italian cinema, definitely.
Yeah. Wow, so good little conversation there around Kubrick and directors and art.
And I'm a composer and a director.
And I'm not.
I actually quite often hate bringing up that I'm a filmmaker because I feel like a cunt doing it.
Brilliant.
Because I just don't like doing it. I don't, but I do it quite often. I know I do, and I don't really like doing it at the same time.
But it's part of the conversation, isn't it?
I know, because that's exactly it. I can come in and say how I find and feel with a thing and see things.
You see a different side.
Yeah. I see it from like the making of, sort of the mechanics.
Yeah. And I get them.
So I'm not a prick.
I'm just not creative. I get them though. I get that.
Yeah. You totally.
That's why Argento is, in my top 3 directors.
Yeah.
I'm not a massive Kubrick fan. I think he's great, but there's other directors I prefer above him. But again, going back to the Clockwork Orange, this is my favourite Kubrick movie. It's not a perfect movie, but it is fucking incredible. And it's an assault on the senses. So let's assault our senses. Let's get into it, shall we?
Let's do it.
Excuse me. So we start off with nice just a red screen, and a score comes in.
I quite liked these blocked colours.
Yeah, it feels really 60s. Or 70s, early 70s, which the film is,
Yeah, it does. It doesn't tell you what the film is yet, but even just those colours, kind of, the fact there's two different, it's like red and green or something, or red and blue. Real big block colour, just the whole screen is that colour. There's something in that, and red's definitely something which is used a lot in this film, especially early on.
And when he talks about seeing the blood on the screen, later on. Who is the composer? Because the music, is really well composed throughout this. And
I can tell you.
Obviously, there's a lot of
there's a lot of musical pieces.
Ludwig van in this as well.
But we start basically. We just open up, like I said earlier on. It's it's a 4/4 break from the get go. We've just got someone looking at the camera.
It's the Kubrickian stare.
When you have, that. Full form is there. There's two ways of it. It's the filmmakers letting you know that we know that this is a film. It's a film. We're all in this together. We can go anywhere we want now. And there's another way. It could be we're doing this, but we do know you know this, but we're pretending we don't know you know this, and we're doing this as an artistic merit. So I don't know which choice is.
I think it's the former. I think it's the first one because there's narration.
Yeah,
and
that is very much so. It does give you that indication straight away that who's narrating is the person visually looking at us now.
He's basically looking at you saying, "Hello, I'm Alex. This is my story."
It does. I love this. I do quite like. I don't know all the time, but I do like a film that has a bit of narration. And it's so interesting the choices of narration that come and go. There's a point later on, I was with Sarah, and I was like, well, at this point here, you should really do some narration. It would make so much sense. And he just starts talking as I said that, and I was like, it's weird. It just, I don't know. Yeah.
It's almost like Kubrick knew what he was doing.
It does seem that, yeah.
So we start off in this weird bar. Now, you talked about this bar already. There's female mannequins everywhere in various positions. There's tables and chairs. There's even one that you squeeze the nipples of to get some milk out of.
They're proper the proper molded mannequins. Like there's vagina parts.
Yep.
So it's like, wow, they actually did some good like molding on people, because that's the whole thing. You could probably I'm going to roll up £10 and just leave it there for the moment, get it later, you know.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, it's really very very strange and supposed to be futuristic. It doesn't really feel like that now, but it was at the time, and it does still feel otherworldly.
But you've got these 4 characters sitting there. If you've not seen the movie, we'll go for it. You've got these 4 characters sitting there in like white underpant type clothing, like it's like what you'd wear underneath your suit back in the day to keep warm.
Long johns,
the whole thing. But there might be braces with the slight. One of them's our main character, Malcolm McDowell's Alex, has got his like eye painted a little bit and stuff.
Yeah, like
it's very
eyelash.
Bart Simpson had it as a costume in one of the.
Well, everybody knows the costume. You know, it's very iconic, really. And I'm not going to do this all the way through, but there is the quote that we open with, really, which sets up the language. Which immediately you're like, "What the fuck are they saying?" But within a couple of scenes, you get what they mean.
Yeah.
The quote is, bear with me here. So he says, "There was me, that is Alex, and my 3 droogs, that is Pete, Georgie, and Dim, and we sat in the Corova Milk Bar, trying to make up our razadooks as to what to do with the evening. The Corova Milk Bar sold Milk Plus Velocet, Synthemesque, or Drencrom, which is what we were drinking. This would sharpen you up and make you ready for a bit of the old ultra-violence." And you're like, what is going on? Crazy chemical milk that's going to make them go out and fight people. Is this what they're doing? And yeah, you're right. That's what they're doing.
Fight milk, like in Sunny in Philadelphia.
Fight milk.
Fight milk. Woo, woo. Yeah, it's just this opening, just that bit in the tables and those 4 there, and then other people left and right, just different forms of people. But you know, it's a bar, but this is no bar that I've ever been in.
Yeah, it's kind of like Jabba's, not Jabba's bar.
Kind of, it's another world. It's another totally different world. And yeah, basically it's a Friday night in England where it used to be. I don't think it is so much anymore. You know,
do you think
go down the pub, get drunk, and go and have a fight?
Do you think it's the same chain as the Tatooine Cantina? You know,
could be.
You know, where they're all drinking blue milk in that one.
Yeah, it could be. So yeah, it's just some dudes getting ready to go out and bust some heads.
And that's what they do. So this is the youth of today. There's not really any much police or authority around in the future. So they head out of the bar, all hyped up on their super milk, and they come across a poor old homeless man, a tramp.
Now, where this is, I've shown you this when we drove to London before, I think.
Yeah.
We ran around the roundabout. So there you go. There is that. I've skated there as well. I turned up there to skate. The ground's pretty rough. I turned up to skate, and I was on the top of where the roundabout is, and the car's behind me, and I'm thinking I'm going to drop in. So I'm going to basically hop off the wall on my board into the bank and ride it down. My first thing I do it, and I snap the tail of my skateboard, and that's the only skating I ever did at that place. I literally snapped my board there and went, right, cool, sat down. Great.
Bloody Clockwork Orange.
Clockwork, and it's called the Clockwork Orange, that's a skate spot. Anyway, and there's this homeless guy who's a bit drunk, and he's like, hey, guys!
Now, a good story...
Give me some money. Yeah, go on.
Good story for me is, it doesn't always work, is bookended. And this Irish tramp will come back towards the end of the movie. And I do love the bookends.
It's more a almost calmer type thing going on here. It's kind of like this is why Kubrick's pulling this, but like at the end of the day, there's people who are going out committing crime, but then they're being punished for it, and then they're being like absolutely seriously punished for it, meeting the people that they did the crimes against, And that's like, whoa! I don't know, him pulling that. I don't know why. You know, if anything, surely that's a deterrent for doing anything bad. But I don't know.
Well, they find this Irish tramp who's like, "Could you spare some change, boys, please?" And they're like, they just instantly go in on him and start.
Pretty much, they talk to him for a bit and they kind of mock him a little bit and talk down to him. And he kind of laughs with them a little bit, and then they push a cane into his chest, and he's just like, "Go on then, fucking do it, just kill me then. I just don't want to be here. Whatever, just fucking kill me." And that's kind of how he's at in life, and they just beat him. You know, we don't think he's been killed. We don't really know. They kind of cut it. It's kind of cut, but they do beat him.
Yeah, they beat him almost to death, but we know he comes back a bit later on.
And, you know, they're beating him just for some fun, something to do. And we all, I expect, most of us have come across these people in life at some stage, even if you're at school and a school bully. People just don't give a shit and want to go and have violence and fights because they think that's the form of entertainment and fun. Fucking losers.
And, you know, I've had it happen to me. I've just been beaten up for no reason.
For no reason, yeah. Fucking losers, honestly.
You know. It's just the way it is, and that was as a grown adult. You know, it happened to me. It's just, yeah, there's these people out there, and there's kind of a bit of a Warriors kind of gang vibe now, because they come across Billy Boy and his 4 friends who are about to commit gang rape on a poor lady
on a stage inside a derelict theatre.
Yeah. Before they can actually do the deed, though, Alex sort of inadvertently saves this girl, I guess.
By the way, classical music has already started and now continues for most of the film.
Yes.
Especially it really does. I mean, like, scenes will cut and go to other scenes, and classical music is actually at times it's still playing.
Yeah, and it just adds to the dreamlike weirdness. It is madness, isn't it?
It's to the madness.
So Alex and his friends sort of shout at Billy and his buddies, and she runs off, and it's time for a fight. Very
quickly, it's such a quite unique choice to have classical music. Obviously, the juxtaposition of the violence and the classical music, or if not a juxtaposition, if anything, maybe a parallel of craziness, because classical music, especially Ludwig as well, can be quite out there and going for it. They almost work together. It's almost weirdly genius choice.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah.
And they're kind of like pirates as well, for me, these gangs, because they've all got their little territories, you know, and they're kind of almost like pantomime pirates. So they shout over to Billy, "If it isn't stinking Billy Goat, Billy Boy." And they sort of shout at him, "They come and get one in the yarbles if you have any yarbles." And they
the naked woman runs off.
Yeah, and they have this fight now, which is like a wrestling match, where they're just jumping across tables and smashing chairs on each other's backs, and there's quite a lot of good choreography. Really, it's going back to Spookies. I'd like to have seen more fights like that, like this in Spookies. We had that one fight in Spookies, but yeah, it's
Maybe Stanley Kubrick should have directed Spookies.
They really kicked the shit out of Can you imagine?
Can you imagine that?
They really kicked the shit out of Billy Boy and his buddies. And
classical music's still playing. It hasn't stopped, just to say.
Stopped.
Yep.
And then they go off for a drive.
They steal the car. The classical music still playing.
We get some classic rear screen projection while they're in the car here.
Yeah.
And again, they're all staring at the camera. They're just looking at you while they drive. We sped into the night looking for a little bit of the old in-out or whatever it is they say, and they're just off for the next. They've already, beaten up a tramp, then they got into a big fight with another gang, and now they're off out in a speed drove.
In-out.
And off they go. And they're causing cars. They're driving on the wrong side of the road, so all the cars that are coming at them are swerving off into... And they've caused about 3 crashes on the way to wherever they're going.
They're nihilists. They don't care. They are on a road to destruction, and they don't care who is coming with them.
And they say, Alex narrates, "We decided it was time for what we like to call the old surprise visit," which is where they basically just go to someone's house, break in, and do whatever they feel they want to do at that time.
It's home invasion.
Yeah, so they go to a house, a big house.
Out in the country. It's very art decor, or whatever you want to call it, fucking artsy house. Out in the middle of the country, so I guess in a way, no one can hear you scream in the country.
Yeah, and like in some ways, this character is a bit like Stanley Kubrick. He lives out in the middle of nowhere in this big house. He's a writer.
A bit of a recluse type person. I could see myself as this person.
But again, with Jack Nicholson in The Shining, so he's clearly drawn to this type of character.
That's
Kubrick.
Quite true, actually. I didn't even realise it. Imagine if it had been actually. This is where I'm going to be using AI. I'm going right. Can you just pop Jack Nicholson's character from Shining as that person?
I'm not sure Alex and his droogs would have stood in a chance
against Jack Nicholson's madness
with an axe and a baseball bat. Although that would have been a hell of a
There's
film.
always someone with madness in Kubrick's films, isn't there?
Yep, there certainly is. So they bang on the door, and his wife goes to the door, and they say, "Help! Help! There's been a terrible accident. Can we please come in and use your telephone?" He sounds quite a sweet boy, doesn't he, Alex, as he's saying this through the door. "I need to call police. There's blood. There's an accident."
"Please, missus, there seems to be some blood. Oh, come on, there's been an accident out here. Please, missus, will you let us in? I swear there's nothing else going on out here." That sort of thing.
And, of course, they burst in, and they're all wearing masks. And Alex's mask, specifically, seems to have a bit of a dildo nose going on.
There's a massive red theme here. Everything's, like, really red going on. There's a weird dildo mask going on.
There's a lot of cocks in this film, but not actual cocks, but there are cocks. There's a few cocks in the film later on, but there's a lot of phallic objects
Didn't we review a film which had loads of cocks in it recently?
Probably, yeah. Cocks do come up every few episodes.
That's a movie. There's loads of cocks in it.
I mean, obviously, going back to episode 1, Old Man's Cock. But yeah, they burst in. They tease them.
Let's explain. Let's go into it a bit more. Right, we've got this writer there. He's just a typewriter writing away, and there's a lady there. It seems to be his wife. The door knocks, and they're like, "Who on earth could that be at this time of night?" She goes up there. They, "Oh, please, missus." They come in. They bust it in. They then just start bullying these two. There's 4 of them, and there's 2 of those, and they just play around with the woman, start trying to take her clothes off, and they got the guy, and the main guy, Alex, he says, "I'm singing in the rain, just singing in the rain," which comes back later.
Indeed.
And bites him in the arse, but he's an idiot to even be doing that. It's such.
And apparently, I think it was Gene Kelly's estate didn't like the use of that during this scene, because obviously it's alluding to a rape scene.
That's a shame. Do you know this year, though, that song came in public domain, so I, at some point, will be using the movie, and I will be adding Singing in the Rain.
That's a great song.
Yeah. I want it to be raining blood, though, when it happens.
Perfect. But they cut her clothes off. First of all, they cut off the area around her breasts, so her boobs are sticking out of her dress.
They kind of make a reverse bikini.
Yeah, and then they cut her entire dress off, all while her husband is tied up and gagged on the floor.
Yeah, they're basically going to rape her. Now, when I watched this, the only other time, when I was like 17, 18, whatever it was, this scene was very, very traumatic for me. And so it's interesting Kubrick pulling it because of the youth. I was actually the youth when I watched it. And I actually found it quite traumatic, and I thought the scene was way longer, and it's not.
It's so sadistic because he's singing a really jolly song, and with every sort of note of "in the rain," he sort of hits him with his cane or kicks him, and then they go into.
Well, it goes to the rape. Then you get the theme music of the actual film. It's the first time we hear it comes in.
Yeah,
and that cuts to them as soon as the sort of rape happens, the theme music goes in, and it cuts to them going to the club.
And I do respect Kubrick not showing the rape, because I'm not a fan of seeing rape. I get why it's written into stories,
but it's that thing of using your mind. My mind must have gone through that in my head a couple of times, and I didn't like it, and I extended that scene multiple times in my head. For like a long scene of someone being raped, and I watched it and I was like, that's really short.
Thankfully. Yeah, so once they'd finished, Alex says, well, after we'd had a bit of the old in out, we decided to go back to the bar for a nightcap. So they go back to the bar that they were in at the beginning. So they started off in the bar. Let's recap their evening so far. Left the bar, beat up a tramp, got into a massive gang fight. Stole a car. Caused 3 automobile accidents.
Beat a man, raped a woman.
Broke into a house, beat a man, gang raped a woman.
Yeah.
Drove the stolen car back to the bar for a nightcap. And while they're in there, they see some what they call sophistos, which are richer sort of people who are probably in the industry, discussing, a script and something they're working on. And then the girl starts singing, and I think she's singing Ludwig van because Alex is. And again, this is Kubrick.
He's really into his... Is she doing a poem? I thought she was saying.
No, she sings.
She's singing. Okay, all right.
And again, Kubrick really being into music. Alex is really into music, and that's kind of his tie to the world, isn't it?
Yeah, he has like a massive respect for it. So because of that reason, one of his gang kind of goes to mock this person out loud and laugh and go, whatever, that sort of thing. And straight away, he smacks him.
Because he's the leader, and he wants his authority.
He wants to lay that down easily, but he's actually saying, like, don't be so disrespectful. And the lady goes quiet, and everyone's like looks, and then I think she probably obviously continues, but the scene cuts. But he's just saying to don't be like that. That's wrong. So in some ways, he's being good, but
Dim tries to stand up to him after he hits him.
Trying to show his authority.
Dim says, "What did you hit me for?" And he says, "For being a bastard with no manners." And not a duck of an idea how to compose yourself in public.
Yeah, it's almost like Shakespeare dialogue in the way it's been. It's almost like a play or something, but the way the words are phrasings are and stuff, phrasing, it's so interesting. And
we get the sense now of mutiny stirring amongst his gang because Dim tries to stand up to him and says, I don't think I like the way you're speaking to me, and I don't think you should hit me, and I won't stand for it. And Alex says, I'll scrap you anytime you want, buddy boy.
This is the movie with loads of cocks in.
There are a few
cocks
in this.
This is the movie. No, there's loads of cocks in this. I've just started noticing the word cock in my notes coming up a lot. So
there we go. Look,
it's this movie. Which
Malcolm McDowell gets it all out of it later on as well.
Yeah,
fair play to him. So Dim does back down in it. Although there's mutiny stirring in the ranks, we do understand that they're all a little bit afraid of Alex because he's the one who's the most mental out of the four of them. That's why he's the leader. And then Alex goes home, back to his mummy and daddy.
Very quickly, the first place we saw a lot of the sexual pictures was just pictures. Most of the pictures in people's houses are paintings of sexual things.
Yep.
Everything's sexual in this. Everything is sexual.
In Alex's bedroom, we're going to see that in a minute.
Yeah. Everything is sexual in this, and there's a lot of cock, but gone.
So Alex goes back to his house. He lives with his parents in a sort of what we call a flat in the UK, or an apartment, in a very rundown building where the lift doesn't work and he has to go up the stairs. And he comes home to his mum and his dad. He goes into his bedroom. And in his bedroom, he plays some Ludwig van because he loves a bit of the old Ludwig van. And
he must have stolen that stereo system he's got there. Is that from the house? That must have been from the Home Invasion because it looks like it's such lovely stuff, and the paintings look like ones from that Home Invasion. So
he's got a drawer full of watches and stolen goods.
He's stolen, yeah.
He's got a painting of a woman with her legs spread.
Yeah. And
he's got a pet snake which is crawling towards her
vagina.
So it's all very sort of sexual.
There's a big mural with loads and loads of cocks.
Yeah, there's 4 Jesuses that seem to be dancing, but they've all got their dongs hanging out.
Statues, Jesus cock statues. Yeah, it's just loads and loads of cock in this for some reason. I don't know why.
He loves cock.
Who? Kubrick?
Alex.
Right, okay. Yeah, but Kubrick must have liked cock too. It's his movie.
Yeah, well, cock for everyone. Yeah, pet snake. He plays the Beethoven. He has a wank.
Does he?
Well, yeah, it's implied.
I watched this on a projector. I should have seen that. I don't.
Well, I mean, it's implied.
Okay.
Because he starts imagining, because he's so deranged, he looks like he could be having a wank whilst he's there, because then he starts imagining all these visions of death and destruction and hangings and people chasing, and I'm assuming he's masturbating to these horrific scenes in his head because he's so detached from reality.
Yeah, it's a montage of him as like a vampire.
Yeah.
Stock footage of like all the explosions. It's basically him relaxing. That's what's going on in his mind, which is a very destructive mind. Him being a vampire must mean him just sucking the world dry. I don't know.
I don't know, but he's not a well boy. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely not. The thing was, though, when he gets the actual treatment that they give him, why did they drop him back off exactly where he was, not knowing that he's going to be able to live with his parents? If they'd have given him money and taken to a whole nother place, he might have actually been all right because the treatment's actually working for him. That's what it's annoying. Anyway, we'll get there.
I can't wait till we get to Joe the lodger later on.
What you doing to your mum and dad's not very nice, is it?
Dad, there's a strange fella in our living room. That's Joe the lodger.
We get to it.
Anyway, he wakes up in the morning. His mum says, Alex, you're going to be late for school, love.
What the fuck is going on with her purple hair and the way she's dressed? Short leather dress, purple hair. I literally couldn't write notes fast enough in this movie.
Gab, it's the future.
I was like, what the fuck? I had so much to take in for this movie.
But he says to her, Mum, I can't go to school. I've got a terrible pain in my Gulliver. It's not going to be something I'm going to be able to do. And she's like, you haven't been to school all week. And he's like, I know, but lots of rest and relaxation. I'll be fine, Mum. Honest.
So it's like a little schoolboy still. That's ridiculous of it. And then he's walking through the house when everyone's gone out.
Just before that, his mum then goes up. This is just to show how normal they are. His mum then walks over to the dad in the kitchen and goes, Alex is still ill. He's not going into school again. And he's like, oh, okay, no problem. And they're all just so normal considering what their son's been doing. And then they say,
they don't know what he's been doing.
Where do you think he goes at night? Yeah. Because he said he's got a job, but he doesn't get into all hours.
Yeah.
Little do they know he's out raping and pillaging like a Viking.
So they go to work, and he's basically having a Ferris Bueller's day off here. This is Alex's day off.
It is Ferris Bueller, isn't it?
Yeah.
Bo.
But unfortunately not. As he's walking through the living room itching his bum, and the camera follows him as he goes along, he just walks past a room and there's a man sitting in it, and he keeps on walking. He turns round and comes back. Who is this guy? He's from later on there's a guy from the Wicker Man in this randomly.
Well, this is Mr. Deltoid, the school counsellor.
The school counsellor, right. How's he got in there? And he says,
Alex.
How's he got in there though?
Well, he said, your mother gave me the key so I could come up and talk to you. Come and sit on the bed with me, Alex. And he makes Alex sit on his parents' bed next to him.
Really close to him.
And then he touches his leg. Yeah. Now, consider it, Alex is supposed to be, in the book, I believe Alex is quite young.
This guy was in the Wicker Man. It was not the bartender, it's one of the other guys.
Now, in the book, Alex is supposed to be quite young. So this guy is clearly a bit of a pedo.
Absolutely.
And he sort of makes Alex lie down with him on the bed. Now, Alex is only wearing his underwear. Then he grabs his balls.
He does.
And says to him, you must behave yourself. You've got to be a good example for society. You're going to let your parents down, and you're not going to do well at school. And this is what I want you to do. I want you to buck your ideas up, and just get back on board, get back on. And while he's doing all of this, he tries to sort of have a little swig of...
Well, no, he does. He has a big old drink. And I thought he's such a badass that he was doing this on purpose. He goes to drink a glass of water, but it's got false teeth in it, which have been cleaning for the night. But
Alex's
he doesn't know.
He
drinks it for a while. And I was like, that dude's badass. It's disgusting. But that guy's hard as nails. But then he realises, he's like, oh my God. And it's like, oh, okay, it's a kind of a comical thing.
And then he gets up and leaves, and he says, stay out of the dirt, Alex. And he's basically trying to do right for him, but he is a pedo as well.
Yes, right.
This goes to show that everybody in Alex's life, his parents are so submissive, they just let him do what he wants. His school counsellor is hitting on him, and that's why he's in this violent gang, because that's what society is now. It's just, there's just no authority. The only authority is trying to fill him up. So, it's crazy.
So Ferris Bueller spends his day off from school and he goes to the record fair, And there's these this
hang on.
It's like this place where there's loads of just record shops.
What's he wearing?
Oh, I can't remember. What's he wearing?
He's wearing like a fucking David Bowie. I can't even explain it. It's like something Bowie would have worn in The Labyrinth, but also like something Shakespeare might have worn mixed with Blade, the vampire hunter.
It's bizarre stuff. But he goes in, there's these two women looking for records, because there's all these record salesmen in this area. It's like a shopping fair, market fair or whatever.
No, they're not women, Gav.
Girls, sorry, these young girls.
In the book, they're about 13.
Oh, well, I just saw ladies, I don't know. And they're basically both sucking cock lollies.
Yeah.
There's just cock everywhere. And he just sort of says to them both, do you want to go and have a threesome at my place? Mum and Dad aren't there. And they're like, great. And then we have a thingamajiggy, a time lapse of them just having sex, lots and lots and lots.
To the William Tell overture of din.
Which is comical, isn't it?
It's like Benny Hill, isn't it?
It is Benny Hill.
But yeah, and it goes on for quite a while. So to film that scene must have taken an hour.
When he's standing talking to them, there's one record you can see, and it's 2001: Space Odyssey.
Thank you.
Soundtrack.
That's the first time I noticed that Easter egg as well.
Fuzzy Warblers.
It's the first time I noticed that.
Fuzzy Warbles, or whatever he says to them.
Fuzzy Warbles.
Yeah.
But yes.
His gang's downstairs though, and they've been waiting for him in his apartment block after he's finished.
After he's finished with the two girls, he comes downstairs. Oh, what are you all doing here? What a nice surprise. We're waiting for you, Alex.
They
Where
tried
have you
to
been?
turn the tables on who's in power.
Yeah. They say there's new rules in the gang now.
They kind of diss him a bit.
No more picking on Dim for a start. And he's like, okay, what are the other rules? And they're like, and we've got a job that we want you to help us do. And he's like, but I pick the jobs normally. Okay, what's this big score then? What's this big job? And the guy says, it's big money. We've got a plan. And we get this Reservoir Dogs slow motion shot now of them walking. You know, I'm sure Tarantino would have seen that and thought, that's a really cool shot. If I ever make a film, I'm going to use that. And he did indeed, because it's a real Reservoir Dogs shot. But Alex, as they're walking, is really, really annoyed. He's narrating, saying, I'm really, really annoyed that they're trying to, you know, take over the gang. So he instantly pushes two of them into the canal. And then he pulls his cane out from his back. He's got one of those cool canes with a little knife in it, hasn't he?
Yeah.
And slices him across the hand.
Yeah, because I actually thought I couldn't remember it. I actually thought he stabbed them all up and killed them, but no. He's just kind of teach them a lesson.
Yeah.
It's going to bite him on the arse again, though. Everything he does, every action has a reaction.
It does. Well, it cuts to the bar now, and they're all sort of sat there silently, and he goes, Now I've got my authority back. He basically says to them, well, now I've shown you that I'm the boss and I'm the leader and you can't go up against me. We're all friends now, and I'd like you to tell me what this big job is that you're interested in. So they tell him, we've heard about this health farm, but there's a woman who's there always on her own because none of the... it's closed to customers at the moment, so she's there on her own at the moment. Loads of money, loads of treasure in there. Definitely worth, you know, going and breaking in. It's going to be the big one. We're going to get loads of money from this. So they go up and do the old surprise visit on the health farm, don't they?
Yeah.
So she's in there doing her yoga, her sexy yoga. And there's this, she loves cocks and vaginas, this woman, because every piece of art and painting in that health farm.
likes cocks and vaginas.
Who likes them more, Kubrick or...
Kubrick.
Or... what's his name? The guy that did Aliens and Species.
Geiger. Yeah.
Imagine Kubrick and Geiger making a film together.
Or Clive Barker.
They all love cocks, don't they? Those three.
My friend got another friend of ours a book, and it was a Clive Barker book. I don't know why I got a Clive Barker book. He's not really a massive horror fan. He gave it to him, and it was artwork, and it was just all cocks. Every page was a cock, and he gave it to him. He gave it to my friend, and what the weird thing is, though, about 5 or 6 years later, that friend who he gave the book to came out as gay. I don't think, given the books made him gay. I think he's already gay. Made him gay. I mean, you know.
It'd be the same if someone gave me an H.R. Geiger sort of coffee table book.
It might actually. It could have been a Geiger book just full of cocks. Maybe it wasn't Clive Barker. One or two.
Lots of cocks either way.
Just cock everywhere.
Imagine Pinhead's cock.
I don't want
to. So they go to the health farm. They put on their dildo masks again, and they do their old help. There's been a terrible accident, but she's like
no, fuck off.
Yeah,
she is more hard, isn't she? She actually fights back. Yeah.
So they sneak around the back.
She's a right cat lady as well. She's like basically living by herself with loads of cats.
Kubrick, 16 cats he had, so he's putting elements of himself in this film.
Yeah, I can actually see him in lots of these roles.
Yeah.
And the madness as well.
The recluse, the madness,
lots of things. I reckon
he probably had a dildo mask.
He probably spent the days wanking in his mansion, I'm thinking, of all these pictures of cocks and vagina in his head going around.
Wow. 2001 wanks in one day.
Is that where he got the name from?
Yeah. And then the studio was like, you can change it to 2001 A Space Odyssey instead.
2001's my daily quota.
2001 A Wank Odyssey. Kubrick.
Wow.
A clockwork wank. She doesn't open the door, like I say. So they sneak around, and she calls the police, tells them, you know, and this is the start of his downfall now.
Classical music starts again now.
And he sneaks into the room in his dildo mask, and she's like, who the bloody hell are you? What are you doing here?
She has a massive cock statue, which is so funny because he just taps it. And it starts, momentum starts rocking, and it keeps coming in and out of shot, and it's really comical.
It is.
Even though he's about to possibly rape her and attack her. It's so comical.
It's like that little bird in Alien on the spaceship that goes backwards and forwards.
It's a big cock, a massive cock could go whoom, whoom.
And she keeps saying, don't touch that. Don't touch that. And he's like, oh, well, you're a fruity one, aren't you? What's this you've got here? And she's like, don't touch my big cock. I've told you. And then eventually he picks it up.
But just before that, she was clever enough to actually, as soon as he knocked at the door, she went and rang the police.
Yeah, well, that's what I said. This is the start of his downfall now, because she's called the police.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So she actually rang the police and said, "This is a bit of a weird thing. I know, I don't know if it means anything, but someone's just knocked at my door. But it seems to be the sort of same MO of the person that got attacked a couple of nights ago." I just thought I'd say, and they're like, we'll bring some out to you, essentially. We can't hear that. And she's like, oh, only if you're sure. I was like, yeah. And then just as he puts her phone down, Alex walks in. So it's a bit like, he's, like you say, he's fucked up.
My notes are so pornographic from at this point. It says Alex walks in, he starts rocking the big cock. He tries to attack, and she tries to attack him, and he uses the giant cock as defense.
To get in the way. He pushes the big cock in the way.
Then I put, he knocks her out with the big cock, and he sort of smashes her in the face with it a few times.
Yeah.
Now, he actually kills her, but he doesn't realise that.
Yeah.
And then he suddenly hears the sirens, so he thinks, I better be off now. So he runs downstairs and says to his other buddies, oh shit, the cops are on the way. And they're like, yeah, well, guess what? And they bottle him. They
smashed milk bottles, which have obviously been there. And this is what I assume of this. When he went in, they all went, hey, do you know what we should do? We should. And they've looked around and said, oi, grab a milk bottle. That's what they've done.
Yep.
And the actual milk bottles were milk, and he gets blinded in one eye. He thinks, he's blinded.
It's because they
run off and leave him.
He's so crazy that I think they just want to do robberies, but he wants to add the sexual element because he's really deranged, and they don't want to do all.
I think they're just fed up.
Stuff.
I think they're just fed up with his shit.
Yeah.
Simple as that. But he's left there, and they run off, and the cops turn up. We hear the sirens, and obviously they were phoned, and he's turned up, and he is arrested, and that is probably a midpoint turn in the film.
Yeah, that's kind of like the end of Act 1, really, I guess.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't have thought so. I'd say more midpoint turn.
But either way, he's in jail now at the moment, awaiting what's going to happen now, because...
Well, he does grab a cock's dick, and they punch him up a bit.
Yeah, the cops beat the shit out of him quite a lot.
And then his that school counsellor turns up and says, that's the end of the line for me, I'm afraid. And he said, he's like, please no, sir, please, sir, I'm innocent, sir.
He said, they forced me to do it. That's what they did. And he said, Alex, you're a murderer. And he says, these are lies. These are lies. And he's like, no, they're not. The woman that you beat up with a giant cock died.
Yeah. And he says, that's what he's like, this end of the line from me as the counsel. I've tried to help you, and you won't take it. So, there you go.
And then the cop leans down and goes, if you want to beat him up a little bit, we can hold him for you if you like. We've all had a go. But he doesn't beat him up. He just spits in his face. And I think it's real. It looks like real spit as well. I wouldn't be surprised if they just spat in Malcolm McDowell's face. And then he just says, you've been a great disappointment, Alex, and just walks off.
The narration after this trial, he was sent to 14 years.
Yeah, 14 years in prison. So he gets checked into the prison.
But when this happens, when he starts getting checked in, he's emptying his pockets, at this point here, we didn't see him do this. It's almost like there's a scene left where he was in the cell and we just slowly zooming in on him, right? And he's just sitting there quietly and just thinking about stuff, angry. Then anger turns to him tired, and it starts to him crying. And then it goes through the visual turning of where his mind is. We don't see this because as soon as he's checking in, he is the most politest person from here on out. He's decided, I'm going to do fucking good and get out of here.
It's all a bit of a game, though, to him,
of course
isn't
it is. Of course, he's faking this all the way through. This is like him saying, I found God or something.
He only ends up serving 2 years of his sentence, doesn't he?
Because he does, from this very on, he is so polite to this guy. Yes, sir. No, sir. Anything else? No, sir.
Because he's a bully, he's a manipulator, like he's done to his gang. He knows how to really...
Yeah, he's trying to break the system, and it's like But we never saw this thought process happen, and all of a sudden, he's just being polite. And it's really interesting that did that without it being telegraphed to us.
And I really enjoy this really slow scene now where he's been told the rules of the prison, given his number.
Extremely polite.
Empty your pockets, don't step over the red line.
Yep.
And you've got this like screaming British sort of guy who's like, you're
it's
scum.
A real old school army sergeant type. And he then says to him, right, go over there, undress, come on, take your clothes off. And he just goes over there, takes the clothes off, no problem whatsoever.
One chocolate bar.
He's extremely accommodating to
one packet of cigarettes.
Yeah, mate, and he gets totally naked, and this guy says, "Okay, bend over," and we see the camera's a side view, and he actually looks right into his arsehole. Yep. He pulls those bum cheeks and he looks up there. It's all in one shot. It's all in one take. It's actually done. It's like fair enough.
Imagine that today. I'm just doing another scene today.
Chris Hemsworth today. Chris Hemsworth's going to bend over and I'm looking at his bumhole.
Whoa, you went to Chris straight. I was going to just talk about Malcolm McDowell, but you're thinking about what he'd like.
No, I think nowadays. I'm saying like nadays in a movie.
That's what you'd like to do, is it?
No,
look at Chris Hemsworth's bum.
No.
It's probably got Thor's hammer up there.
When they've cut to a scene in shut up. We cut to a scene in the prison, and it's the prison church. And he's at the front and he does a bit of talking and he's looking down at one of the prison guys who's looking at the guard and he's just giving him like the wink and blowing kisses.
Oh no, he's looking at Alex. Yeah, because Alex
is he looking at Alex?
Yeah, because Alex is a young.
I took that as looking at one of the guards.
No, Alex is a young, good-looking boy, and he says the narration is like a lot of these boys, men in here, would love to have their wicked ways with me, being as so handsome I am.
Sorry.
And that guy is really
he's horrible, isn't he?
Lecherous towards. But considering what Alex has done to other people, they sing a hymn in the church, and he's pretending to have found God.
But his narration says, "I was never interested in the big book."
Yeah. He said, "I like the beginning bit with all the lashings of ultra violence and the holding out.
Yeah.
But I don't like the end of the book." But,
and then the shots of Jesus being whipped. All of a sudden, we've actually got a reenactment. He didn't need to do this.
Kubrick did this.
A reenactment of Jesus being walking on with the cross, being whipped, and loads of people around. It's like, why did you film? This probably took a week to film.
And then that reenactment turns into a fantasy of Alex being a Roman, sort of having loads of women and orgies and whipping Jesus. He's the one whipping Jesus, This is it. His mind always turns to deranged sexual...
Then it does cut to a father saying, you've shown a genuine want to reform. But it's obviously, these parts are like we've had before when he's laying in bed listening to music. We're basically having what's in Alex's head each time. It's very interesting.
Well, the priest comes up to him
and
and says...
he thinks he's reformed, and obviously it's a whole ruse. We know that.
Well, the priest says to him, you really like the big book, don't you? And he's like...
I want to be good. I want to be good.
He says, I want to be good for the rest of my life. And I've heard of a new treatment, Father, that will make me good. And he's like, where did you hear about that? And he's like, well, people talk. And then that's kind of... So he's dropped in there now that he knows about this treatment and he wants it.
Yeah, because then we got a shot of outside of all the prisoners lined up and a suited gentleman come along and
He's like a government official.
Yeah, and a few peoples, and they've got to stand there. And he's going over to people, checking them, and he's basically looking for a guinea pig.
Yep, a candidate. And Alex has the balls to shout out something. And he's like, who is this? And he's like, prisoner 39642, whatever it is. Excuse me, I've just sneezed. And he's like, oh, I like him. He could be an ideal candidate. And then he says, great, take him away. We'll transform him into a good, pillar of the society.
That's my Transformer sound.
Autobots, roll out. Don't know why we're going off on Transformers here, but there we go. Alex is told he'll be transferred to a medical facility tomorrow, where he'll have 2 weeks of treatment and then set free. And he's like, this is great. Just a fortnight to go and I'll be a free man. He doesn't think the treatment's
though, the treatment would have fucking worked if they didn't drop him off in the same places where he did all the acts of violence.
I love it. I love it when they drop him off and everything crumbles around him.
Yeah,
because
it's so stupid.
Just jumping ahead, what I love about that is it demonstrates that if you do really bad shit, no matter what you do to reform or try to prove to people you're not like that anymore, people will still look at you as the person that did those things, whether it's your parents getting a lodger in while you're away in prison, or whether it's your friends who haven't forgotten what you did to them, or a drunk Irish tramp, whatever it is, people will never forget what you did. That's why you've got to be a good fucking person. We've all done bad stuff, not as bad as this. We've all done stuff we regret in our life, bad stuff, but there's a line, and Alex is way over that line. And like you said earlier, you summed it up. This is a karma. This is all about karma coming back to Alex, because he's too deranged to live, really.
Start singing Karma Chameleon in my head then.
Karma.
It's already going in my head.
So the next day he arrives at the facility. The doctor signs him in and he's shown to his room and he's loving it. It's like a little hotel.
The warden, because they're told what's going on by a little meeting of what's happening. And the warden is sitting there and he's explaining what's happening. In 2 weeks he'll be released to the public. And the warden's sitting there going, and you can see on his face the disgust of this idea.
So he thinks he's a horrible little animal, little piece of scum.
I think it's a ridiculous idea, basically. The actual, because that's the guy, the sergeant one looked up his bums thinking that, and the actual warden himself thinks it's a ridiculous idea.
But he's in his little room in this facility, which is like a little hotel room where he's going to get lovely food and everything, and he gets an injection in his bottom to start the treatment. He says, what's this for? I've got nothing wrong with me. And she's like, it's just vitamins, etc.
Is that why he's having his breakfast in bed?
Yeah.
Straight away, he's like, wow, yesterday I'm like this. Today I'm being treated breakfast in bed by these beautiful nurses or whatever.
And he says, what are we going to do? What's the treatment then? And the lady says, we're just going to show you some films, Alex.
I like the cinema.
Oh, lovely.
This is what he thinks.
Fucking hell. And everybody knows this. This is the most famous scene from A Clockwork Orange. So to paint the picture for anyone who hasn't seen it or anybody wants us to, he is strapped down, and this is all, they did this to Malcolm McDowell. They clamped his eyeballs open with these little clamps. He actually cut his eyes on the metal in real life, and the doctor that sat next to him was a real life doctor who was there to administer the eye drops, but also to make sure up close that his eyeballs weren't getting too damaged, because this is all very real. And yeah, he's strapped down, eyes clamped open, wires on his head.
Strange, wires on his head, and he's basically sat there forced to watch cinema, regardless of whatever's in front of his eyes. He cannot look away, or shut his eyes.
He can't even blink.
Yeah, so he has to watch. But whatever's on, he's watching it.
And first of all, he quite likes it because they show him a film.
Well, it's like a gang. It's a kind of a gang. Aren't they? And they're just like beating up a woman or going to rape a woman or something. And he's like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and he's thinking, oh, great. And then when the blood, he's like, I do love it when the blood comes out.
But he thinks it's Hollywood. That's what he thinks it is. He's like, oh, it did look really real. And it's like, yeah, because they've actually got real footage somehow of this happening.
His narration says, it's funny how the colours of the real world only seem really real when you video them on the screen, especially the red, the blood red, because he loves blood, and he loves seeing it.
He does, though, start to say, I start to feel unwell. And I try to forget about things.
And then we see some rape on the screen, and then he feels sick. And then afterwards...
He said it's a gang rape. He said at first it was okay, but then by the 7th guy, I started to feel a bit sick, but I couldn't shut my eyes or stop looking.
And afterwards, the doctors are just... Well, while this is going on, the doctors are discussing what's happening to him, which is basically they're overloading his brain with rape and violence. It's
going to make you feel like death.
Yeah, so that you cannot stomach it anymore. And even the thought of...
Yeah, actually feel like death. Like the worst come over you've had from taking drugs or anything like that, or hangover or anything, whatever it is, this is like it. You're going to feel like death. And it's like, oh my God.
And afterwards, he's taken back to his little room, and the female doctor says to him, how'd you find that? And he's like, oh, I do feel a bit woozy. She's like, well, you've got 2 sessions tomorrow, Alex. And he's like, 2 sessions? Oh, Jesus Christ, okay. But he says, I'll do whatever it needs to get through the next 2 weeks if I'm going to be a free man at the end of this.
Because he's still being very accommodating.
So the next day he's shown lots of Adolf Hitler, Nazis, war, bombs.
He does, Nazi footage, all sorts. And he does say that, he says that he feels sick and he doesn't understand it. And they're like, oh, it's like your treatment's starting to work, though. That's why you feel sick. It's okay.
And they say, don't worry, we'll play some music to go with it. And ironically, it's his favourite music.
And he's saying, not this, not this. And they can't hear him. And he's trying to shout, not this, anything but this. Because he likes Ludwig.
They're ruining music for him. And they're ruining... The 2 passions he's got are violence, sexual violence... crime and music, and they're putting them together so he can never enjoy them ever again.
So he's sitting there with a doctor on another day, and he said, I'm cured now. And they're like, no, you're not cured. No, I am. No, it's not even been a fortnight yet. You're not cured. I don't know where they've got this idea that a fortnight, they need the 14 days, whatever. But anyway, and he tries to get out of it, but they're like, no. So they keep him at it.
For 14 days. And after 2 weeks, all the sort of people who are in charge of the project and doctors and funders, etc., they're all sort of sat in this room.
Here he is, ladies and gentlemen.
They parade him out.
No drugs, no hypnosis, nothing. And tomorrow we will let him into society.
But now, a demonstration, if you will. And they bring a man out.
This guy comes on stage. Like, who's this guy? He's not even like a big guy or anything, though. But it's this guy just starts like dissing him. Then he just starts slapping him. And he's like, what are you doing that to me, sir? And
I've
then
done nothing to you, brother.
And essentially, it's an experiment. He's doing violence and lust. And he tries to attack him. And he just can't. He starts retching. And it just falls to the floor. And he can't do anything.
And then the man says, lick my shoe. And Alex just licks his shoe.
And then, okay, that's enough. Again. Thank you.
And he said, I stuck out my tongue, ladies and gentlemen, and I licked that shoe as much as I could, because all I could do to not be sick everywhere. And everyone clapped.
The warden and the army guy who checked him earlier, looked up his bumhole. They're sort of sitting there, just so you know who he is, in context. He's the bumhole looker.
Inspector Bumhole.
Inspector Bumhole, like it. They're kind of getting more on the side of the government now and going, oh, okay, because they especially Inspector Bumhole, he's smirking when he's getting violent and getting treated like shit, because that's what he wants him to happen to him. And he quite likes it. But then all of a sudden, they bring out a lady walks out with her breasts out, and she's come out to lust him into like wanting to do something. At that point, the Inspector Bumhole and the warden both like, oh. Inspector Bumhole looks like he hasn't seen a woman with boobs for probably many years. He's like, oh.
And it's a room full of really well-to-do people in ties and suits. And they're all like, oh, here she comes. And she comes on out there and she walks over to Alex.
And Alex's narration's going along and he's saying, I wanted her, I really did. And basically, he can't. He goes to grab some boobs and feels sick.
He feels sick and she just stands over him.
Yeah.
And then they all clap and cheer. Well done, Doris. Off you go. And she bows.
And
like
he's freed.
And they're like, well done, Alex. You're now a true Christian. The treatment has worked. And that's it. Yeah, he's released the next day.
And like I said, I saw this on Blu-ray on my projector screen. It's fucking brilliant.
So we're going into our final act now where Karma is going to...
He's gone home. Yeah, this is the third act. He
goes home, walks into his normal apartment, looks in his bedroom, and it's like, oh, there's a load of random things in this room. That's weird. It's not how my room was 2 years ago, but oh well. Then he walks into his living room. There's his mum and dad, and there's a man sat next to his mum on the sofa with his arm round her. And they're all sort of reading the paper. And they're like, Alex, you're here. And he's like, yeah. And he's like, oh, I did read in the paper that you were getting released. And he's like, well, I've come home. And they're like, okay. It's all very awkward. And after a few minutes, Alex finally says, Dad, who's that strange fella sitting next to Mum on the sofa?
Eating toast.
And he says, that's Joe, the lodger. He's been renting your room out for the last 2 years. And Joe says, yeah, and I'm more of a son to them than you've ever been. I've read all about you.
His accent's hilarious.
He says, I've read all about you and what you did. You're scum. You're sick. And Alex wants to swing at him, but Alex, as soon as he sort of raises his hand, he instantly feels sick, of course.
He starts burping and he's doing weird things, and he kind of just sits there, and they all just kind of, and he says, he's disgusting, he is. He can at least put a hand over his mouth. Oh my God, that's the new guy.
He says, Dad, where are all my things from my room? And he goes, oh, they were confiscated by the police, you know. We have to give the money back to the victims, you know. So they came and they took everything. Where's my snake? And this is the funny thing. His dad goes, oh, your snake. He had a bit of an accident. He passed away. Your snake had an accident and passed away. And that's what drives him. He's like, no. And he goes, look, son, we can't kick Joe out. We've got a contract with him.
And Joe goes and puts his arms around his mum again. And basically, he's been replaced.
Yeah.
They've put on a nice new son rather than the psychotic rapist.
I don't know if you noticed what his mum was wearing in this scene. She's dressed as exactly what a fucking Oompa Loompa wears in the Gene Wilder movie.
Wow.
Yeah, Joe really rubs it in now and says, oh, you've upset your mother again, you have. Come on now. And he puts his arm around her. So he says, well, I guess I'll be leaving if none of you want me here. And he takes all his stuff and he leaves, Alex. So he's already got no home. That's number one. First kicker. Here comes the next one.
Well, and also he sits there, he cries as well before he leaves, and he realises he can't do any violence now or anything. He can't. That's not an issue. It's not a thing to retaliate. It's not a way to get over people. He has to just, I don't know, start again.
There's an element of this which is kind of like the whole should you neuter someone, you know, because that's kind of what he's always been neutered, hasn't he, really? You know, he can't fulfill what he wants to do anymore. So he goes for a walk along the river, and you wonder if he's considering suicide, and that comes back up later on, and he's looking at the water, and then the tramp comes over from the beginning.
It's the homeless guy who he beat up at the beginning, and he sort
Hello
of
there,
says,
sonny boy.
Could
you give me some change?
And then he looks at him and he realises who he is. So he grabs him and starts pulling him into a tunnel. And it's basically what happened earlier, exactly the same shooting, really, with sort of silhouettes with the light behind him in a tunnel, but obviously it's at the Clockwork Bridge before. He now gets beaten up by a load of homeless guys because he says, this is a guy that beat me up. And all these homeless guys start beating him up like him and his mates were beating up the homeless guy earlier. It's basically everything he did is coming back on him now.
But don't worry, Gav, because the police come and save the day.
And that's a good thing, apart from I don't know how on earth these guys got the job.
But
it's his old
Dim and Georgie.
Yeah, it's his old gang. It's the reason he's called Dims, because he's fucking a bit thick. But like, I don't know how he got jobs as a copper, but they're policemen now.
And they're like, oh, it's Alex. What are you doing? You got out of prison then? Oh, yeah. And he's like, you can't be police. He's like, oh, we are. We're the authority, Alex.
Really should have started fresh in another town.
They say, don't worry, we'll take care of you. They drive him off in the police car out to the country, handcuffed.
Yeah.
Then they beat him up a little bit.
They put him in a head in a trough.
Now, Gav, this, as a filmmaker, but also as a film fan, as someone who appreciates takes, they put Malcolm McDowell in this trough of water, and he was under that water for a good sort of 90 seconds to 2 minutes, holding his breath for this scene, because they half drown him.
I didn't see if it's a one take. It must have been.
It was a one. Yeah.
Okay.
It's just from that side shot.
Yeah.
And then they pull him out, and
they leave him.
They just leave him in the woods,
they drive
soaking
off.
wet.
So he's like, right, I best go have a little wander, see where I am. And doesn't notice, it's fucking obvious. It's not going to be many houses look like that. He goes back to the house where he went to for a bit of the ultra violence earlier.
But he wouldn't notice because firstly it was
raining
2 years ago,
and it's night time.
And also he doesn't pay attention to these little things because none of these people like you said with Hitchcock. He doesn't see any of his victims as actual people. They're just toys to him.
It's back to the writer from before, who earlier had a red typewriter, which he stole and took into his room. But this time he's got a blue typewriter.
And he's now in a wheelchair because of the beating he took.
And instead of a lady there, because I'm assuming... Oh, we find out what happened to her.
Killed herself,
we find out, yeah. In fact, there's a muscly man there.
It's Darth Vader.
Oh, is it? It's funny, though.
Yeah, that's what I said.
I didn't realise that's
David
him.
Price
okay.
Speedos. One of his standout roles, apart from Darth Vader.
Not bad physique. I was checking the muscle form on him.
Fucking huge. And where's he from? Bristol.
Oh, nice.
And who knew him? My dad.
Oh, nice.
There we go. My little claim to fame there. Yes, David Price is like his bodyguard / carer. Because he can just pick up the guy in the wheelchair in his actual wheelchair. He picks the wheelchair up with the guy in it at one point. That's how strong he is.
And walks down the stairs.
He just moves him around the house where he needs him. So, yeah, he bangs on the door and he's going, "Please help me! Please help me!"
What's interesting though, the Darth Vader doesn't know of this guy and what happened before, so he goes and he just falls to the door and he just picks him up and just takes him down. Darth Vader basically just picks everybody up. Like
a little baby.
He just picks everyone up, doesn't he?
And he brings him inside. And Alex suddenly realises, oh, shit, this is the house.
Alex realises where he is, but he, in his head, he tells us, he narrates it, goes, oh, shit, I realised where I was. But the guy in the wheelchair who was attacked doesn't recognise him.
He says, I know you. Don't I know you? And he says, you were on TV and newspapers. You were that young man. He does recognise him in some way.
It's a bit weird, though. Surely the person that essentially the reason your wife's dead and you're paralysed was name you're probably never going to forget was then in the paper for his experiment and released. You would know that that's the same guy, surely.
It takes him a bit of time to put it all together, doesn't it?
Well, it's because he hears him singing in the rain. That's the only reason. But it seems a bit silly he didn't know.
He says to Julian, Darth Vader, he says, draw him a bath. The poor man is freezing, and we'll prepare him something to eat. And Alex is thinking, I'm coming up roses again here. This is great. You know, I've gone from one great scene to another. So I'm in a bath now.
While he's in the bath, though, Mr. Wheelchair Man, he seems to be very excited by the fact that he's got this guy here who's had this experiment, and he wants his mates to come round. He's on the phone ringing people up, wants them to come round because of it. It's really weird, though, because when they come round and what happens when it does, then they don't batter an eyelid for what he does to him. But he doesn't say on the phone that it's this guy. He doesn't know that yet. Do you know what I mean? It's very weird.
Yeah.
It's like there's something missed there, possibly.
But he loses his mind when he hears Alex singing.
He's in the bath singing, I'm singing in the rain, just sing. And he starts singing really loud. It's like, dude, you were doing this when you were raping his wife in the same house, singing that song. Like,
only 2 years ago.
You're both not very good with your memory.
And yeah, the guy in the wheelchair, the writer, has some kind of PTSD type seizure.
He starts realising the trauma comes back hard.
And later then, Alex is then given a meal.
I'm wondering then after that, he rang those people back up and said, by the way, this is him. Because obviously he then goes and tells his bodyguard, this is the guy.
Because they come in the room, Julian and the writer come in the room.
Give him spaghetti bolognese and wine and basically just eat, drink, eat.
And he says, it's very good, sir, it's very good. And he's like, would you like someone? And he's like, no, thank you. And he's like, what about you?
It's really aggressively, no, thank you.
And then Darth Vader's like, no, thank you. I don't want none, because he's from Bristol. And he says, I'll have myself another glass then. And then he keeps pouring him wine, keeps making Alex drink more and more wine. And he says, do you live here on your own then? And he says, I had a wife. I miss her. She's dead. And he's like, oh, so I'm sorry to hear that there. And he says, yeah, she was gang raped. They told me that she died of, I can't remember what he says. The doctors told him of pneumonia, I think, but he says, but we know what it was really. And basically implying she killed herself because, either that or they're implying that she died of like AIDS or something.
Well, just the trauma of being raped.
Yeah. But basically she's dead now. And then there's a knock at the door and he says, I found some friends, and the doorbell rings. And that man and lady walk in and they say, hello, nice to meet you, Alex. We want to help you. And he's thinking, something's not right here. What could this be? And he says, we've read all about you.
He's still sitting there with his spag bowl, by the way.
And they say, we hear you can't listen to music anymore. Is that right? And he's like, yeah, well, it's actually only one piece of music I can't listen to, which is Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. And, what happens if you listen to it? It just makes me want to die.
Makes me feel funny.
And then he just collapses, and the wine's been poisoned.
His face goes into the spag bowl. Yeah.
Which again, it's quite comical.
And
Kubrick does these funny little.
And his guests don't bat an eyelid when that happens, so obviously they knew what the plan was.
Yeah. And he says, Julian, remove him from the spaghetti. And then he wakes up on a bed upstairs with Beethoven's Ninth Symphony playing really loud, because he set up these giant speakers downstairs on the snooker table. Great shot of that guy getting every single ball into the pocket. Did you see that guy?
Well, I found it interesting that that man and the woman have got he's just pushing the ball into the pocket. That man and woman have gone there, and the woman and the wheelchair man are very like listening, like almost like getting off on it like a bit. And that guy, the snooker table and the balls, is kind of not bothered. He's not interested.
They're all quite casual about it, aren't they?
Oh, the other ones are really like fascinated. They're looking up, but he doesn't seem too bothered. It's a really weird dichotomy.
But this is too much for Alex. This song is driving him mad.
Yeah, he's locked in the room. He can't get out.
He looks at the window.
Wheelchair man downstairs is traumatically smiling.
Massive smile on his face. So Alex looks at the window and thinks to himself,
fuck it.
I've got to do this. He actually says, all it would be is one moment of pain, and then I'll sleep forever and ever and ever. And it's so dark. It's like that's what crosses people's minds when they're thinking about, ending it. I don't want to get too dark with this, but, it's really well written and narrated. He jumps out the window. Now, for this shot, Kubrick used a brand new type of camera, which is really expensive, and he threw it out the window 6 times until it landed facing up on the 6th time. And he was like, great, we got the shot. And the lens was broken, but the camera was completely intact. And Kubrick was like, that's an amazing camera. Like, it would still have been thrown out of a window 6 times. So again, Kubrick with his fucking crazy technical mind. But he's not dead, is he, Gav?
He's like almost a full body cast in hospital.
Yeah. Oh man, it just keeps getting worse for him.
Yeah, but it doesn't though. It ends up being all right for him.
Yes,
which is such a weird flip again.
So he's in hospital. like you said, full
And
body
he
cast.
comes to. There's a shagging doctor and nurse just at the side that come out, and she puts her boobs away.
Well, I
he's
did
come.
wonder.
He's come too. Oh,
Because when he wakes up, you hear, oh.
yeah,
I was
because they're
thinking,
shagging.
where's that coming from? And it's like a Carry-On movie. She runs out with her boobs out, and they're like, oh, he's awake, doctor.
Yeah,
They were just having sex next door to him.
yeah.
So
Mum and Dad visit.
we get the newspaper headlines saying the treatment is inhumane. We start seeing that the government experiment has been, all over the headlines, and people are saying it's terrible. It shouldn't happen. It drove him to almost suicide. His mum and dad come to visit, and they say, look, we saw you in the paper. We're a bit sorry about that. We still don't want you to come home, but we are sorry about what you've been through, son. Then the doctor shows Alex some slides as a little test and says, I want you to fill in the captions. And he starts losing it and swearing, and he realizes the button that was on in his brain that made him not be able to be violent is gone, because he can say what he likes, and he's getting really violent and nasty. And
Yeah, and she's like, yep, very good, very good. So it's almost like they expected it. I don't know.
yeah. And then they say to him, you've got a special visitor now. And it's the prison minister again from earlier. And he comes in and
Who feeds him food?
Now, you know that this was completely ad-libbed.
Really?
Kubrick was getting really bored because they did this scene about 20 times. And so Malcolm McDowell was getting a bit bored, but he thought, I want to entertain Kubrick a little bit. So here's what I'm going to do. So he opened his mouth, and the guy just went with it and started feeding the food to him. And Kubrick suddenly sat back up in his chair like, oh, this is great. And so they kept it like that then, because...
Well, it shows the power changing, and him going, if I play my cards right here and I just do what they want me to do, they're going to give me everything I want.
So he's literally spoon-feeding him.
Yeah.
And spoon-feeding him an apology, and says to him, we failed you. We're really sorry.
I want you to regard us as your friends.
Yeah.
Basically, getting out of being sued.
He says the writer was a lunatic.
They put him away.
Yeah, we'll spin it because he wanted you dead, and we'll spin that, so don't worry, he's in prison now.
Guy, all he was guilty of was sitting at home one day writing something, and his wife was raped and killed, taken away from him. He's put in a wheelchair, this guy comes back to him, he gets revenge, and then he's put away for that forever.
That's the government.
But yeah, this is very much a comment on the government, and they still like it now.
And he says, we'll give you a job and a house. It'll be a very well-paid job as well. Like you said, Gav, it's all a bribe. Oh, and we've also got a special treat for you. And they wheel in a giant speaker, and they play him some Beethoven. And they say, can we just take some photos with you and the minister saying that you forgive us?
Loads of press come into the room, and he just has a little thumb through his car stick up, and he's like, yeah, perfect. And they're all sort of ministers smiling, saying he's absolutely fine, he's great. But we know that he's not. So basically, what's going to happen? He's going to get out of that car, get a job, and he's just going to go and do stuff again. Here, get caught. Here, get arrested. Here, go back, and the government, there'll be a massive thing in the government they fucked up. That's what was going to go and happen.
But the crazy thing is that when he realizes he's no longer affected by sex, violence, or music,
he looks demented.
The tears are rolling down his cheeks because he's so happy.
And he says, "I was cured, all right."
And he looks absolutely deranged. And then the credits roll with...
And that's the end.
I'm singing in the rain.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is a masterpiece.
That's fucking insane. What a movie. You could take away many things from that. I'm sure there's many more intelligent people who could view that film for us and come out with some real deep shit in there. There's many ways to look at that. The government, the experiments, the way you treat public, the
gang
karma, being
karma.
good and being bad, and
also like the fact that it ends on a bad note, like the bad guy wins
in the end. Yeah, it's a strange one.
It is a film god's movie, in my opinion. Everything came together in a very specific way.
I don't know if I'd totally say film gods, but it's like it definitely is a film that should be kept in an archive.
Yeah.
To show what cinema does.
Yeah, and the story behind the scenes of Kubrick pulling it and all of that kind of stuff, it is an assault on the senses, both sound and sight, and it's wonderful. And like you said, there is a lot more to it. There's documentaries galore on it and rabbit holes you can go down with it.
Yeah. So that's a thumbs down from me. So don't bother watching that film.
Mine's a thumbs up and a full body cast.
Mine's a full body cast thumbs up.
Mine's a big rocking cock thumbs up.
Yeah. If you've never seen this film, watch it.
Yeah, it is incredible.
But you kind of need to know
like it.
You need to know what you're getting into when you watch it.
And I would also say the first time you watch it is not going to be the same as the 5th or 6th or 10th time you watch it, because as you get older, you get more out of it. But yeah, wow, Matthew, thank you so much for that.
Yeah, thank you.
I hope we did it justice.
Yeah,
it's good stuff, man.
Right, I need another glass of water because that's a lot of talking. Should we come back?
Let's come back for our outro.
Let's do it. And we're back.
We're back again, singing in the rain. Wow. Well, I got to take the crown, Matthew, back. So
sorry, dude.
There we go. But thank you very, very much.
Yeah. I'm not sure for the former, but the latter was lovely.
Yes. Certainly a good chat though with Spookies. Very deranged film. Well, they're both quite deranged films in very different ways.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was your 3rd round, Matthew. So start thinking about round 4.
Wow.
That was episode 173. What's coming up next, Gav? Shall I tell us?
Oh, tell me, because I forget.
Okay, so our next episode 174, is going to be an actor special. Bruce Campbell, The Chin.
The Chin.
We're going to be talking of Army of Darkness earlier, 1992's Army of Darkness. So we've covered the other 2 Evil Dead movies that he was in.
So funny.
So that and Bubba Hotep from 2002.
I'll get, if possibly, I'll see if I get Elijah to watch Army of Darkness with me. He really enjoyed it.
It's a fun film. Probably my favourite Bruce Campbell movie.
Yeah, and you will see when you watch it how it's such a gateway for horror for kids.
Well, it's very Harryhausen as well, isn't it?
Yeah,
you can tell Raimi's love of Harryhausen in that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's our next episode.
So
Bruce
what is it?
Campbell
Sorry,
special.
Army of Darkness and
Bubba Hotep.
Sweet. Okay.
And then it's my birthday episode after that. So as mentioned, that will be The Substance from 2024.
Excellent.
And Enter the Dragon from 1973. Bullshit, Mr. Handman.
You come straight out of a comic book. I know. Me and you could probably just do the whole dialogue.
Literally. It won't be that though, guys, I promise.
Well, try not to be.
It might be. And then after that will be episode 176.
What's your style?
My style? You could call it the art of fighting without fighting.
What do you mean? Show me some of it. Not here. That island. How do we get there? We could take this boat. Oh no, it's too good, isn't it?
After that will be another patron pick.
Very quickly, Sarah's first example, because she hadn't seen Enter the Dragon, her first watch of it was when we went to cinema to watch it. She'd never seen it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I'll take you, and you.
Sorry, I'm a little tired.
So, after that will be episode 176, a patron pick. It will be our buddy RJ McCready, and he has selected 2 films.
What are we going for? What are you giving us?
2 films about daughters going missing. One of those is 1985's Commando.
Oh, so good.
And he's paired that up with 2008.
Put an ice cream in my nose.
And he's paired that up with 2008.
Oh, I know.
Taken.
I know what it was. Yes.
I've got a very special set of skills.
Oh, that I can't wait to review both of those films. What a laugh.
You've got Arnie and you've got Liam Neeson both going after the men that kidnap their daughters.
I guess I'll just do the Commando version, which on Disney. I don't know if it's the uncut one, but obviously the uncut one's got the blades going into the guy's face when he opens up the tool shed.
Yeah.
That's pretty much the difference for the uncut
knock,
one. Knock, knock.
I eat green berets for breakfast. You said
Matrix.
You said you wouldn't kill me.
I lied. You said you wouldn't kill me till last, Matrix. I lied.
So, yeah, we've got a Bruce Campbell special, followed by Substance and Enter the Dragon, followed by Commando and Taken. So we've got
Schwarzenegger.
It's great. We've got some good episodes coming up. I'm really excited to get into those.
Commando.
So stick with us, guys. We've got some fun, and after that, we've got plenty of stuff set up for the future as well. So good stuff.
I'll see if I can get a photo of me carrying a log.
Please.
Through the woods.
Please do. And I'll be on the phone saying...
I've been getting buff, so...
And I'll just be on the phone saying, I will find you. And I will kill you.
And I'll just get Elijah to put ice cream into my nose. And I'll go...
With a deer behind you. Let's feed this deer. Come on. Do it.
I just love the fact that the bad guy is just thrown into all of a sudden. I think he was the last minute replacement.
He was. Yeah, that's where the vest doesn't fit him.
I know, and he's just like fat. It's like he's not. He could just run around him a few times. He's going to get out of breath soon. Don't worry about it.
And he's got a Freddie Mercury moustache.
He looks like Freddie Mercury. That's the funnest thing of it. I can't wait.
It's going to be so good. So that's our next 3 episodes. So before we say our goodbyes, we'll do our little bit of housekeeping that we do, our admin. So thank you, everybody, for listening. I hope you enjoyed that episode. We are the podcast on Haunted Hill, and I've always been and probably will always be a member of Legion Podcast Network. You can find out more about them if you go to legionpodcasts.com. That's where you can find more about us and all of our episodes in the past and all the other shows on the network. We're on Facebook. If you go to just the podcast on Haunted Hill on Facebook, we have a Facebook page in their community that's been running for 11 years now. It's a fun place to be. Come and join us. Legion also has its own Facebook page as well, Legion Podcasts. Easy to find. You can email us directly at our email address is thepodcastonhauntedhill@outlook.com. And we are also part of the Deadbolt Media, which is our production company. I'll come back onto that in a minute and what that is. Wherever you listen to us now is where you can continue to listen to us. We're on all the usual places: Spotify, YouTube, Podknife, Podbean, Apple, and all the other bits and bobs. We have an Instagram account we use to promote the show and the episodes, and the handle there is The Podcast on Haunted Hill Insta. Deadbolt, our production company, Deadbolt Media, Deadbolt Films. If you go to deadboltfilms.com, you can find out more about the comics we discussed.
Yeah,
Amanda.
The website is getting revamped soon because we're getting an e-commerce shop going, because we can then start selling comics from the shop, the ones which people don't get for the Kickstarters. So we sell them at conventions, but we'll be able to then sell them. I don't even know if you can do that yet. We'll be able to sell also digital copies as well. Yes, do come check out stuff. Best thing to do, actually, go to YouTube, subscribe, because Amanda's coming out soon. You can go see the trailer. I'm quite proud of that. Next month that'll be out. And also just follow us on Instagram, because we do show everything we're up to on Instagram.
Our handle on Instagram is Deadbolt Films. That's all one word. Lots of exciting stuff, as well as this podcast, and also Gab's other podcast that he does with Sarah,
the High Strangeness podcast.
Recently covered one of my all-time favourite conspiracy theories, the Mandela Effect. I still believe in that. I still do think that the Hadron Collider did cause a slight rift in realities, and there are several realities bleeding into each other, but that is story for another time. But if you want to know more about that, go and listen to Gab's show, The High Strangeness. And finally, we are part of Patreon as well. So first of all, thank you to all our patrons. I will thank you all by name in a moment.
Thank you.
as evidenced by this episode. If you'd like to become a patron, there are benefits, one of which is you get to pick 2 films for us to review.
Dan sends you a nudie postcard.
I do not do that, but I do send you a T-shirt in one of 3 colours in your size, anywhere in the world that you live, or anywhere in the outer worlds that you might live, whether it's in a Mandela universe or not. You also get exclusive content via Patreon, as well as our entire back catalogue is available now on Patreon, and sometimes we do early access to the episodes as well. So lots and lots of fun to be had. And the big one really is that you'll get to tell us what to review, Spookies, Clockwork Orange, or whatever it might be. Yep. And I'm now going to thank all of our patrons by name. So thank you very much to Dante, Don Collier, of course Matthew Godley for this episode, Jamie Jenkins, Kevin S. Fife, Sarah Kay, Rachel, RJ McCready, and Lex Boo.
Thank you so much, guys. Again, we would do it without you guys, but it wouldn't be as regular, that's for sure. So thank you.
For as little as £1 or $1 a month, you can become a patron and help support the show. That money goes back into us renting or buying films that are more obscure sometimes, or even paying for equipment, the upkeep. It does take a lot of time and money
it does.
To do the podcast these days. So really appreciate anyone who wants to do that. But of course, thank you to our current patrons. And that's it from us for episode 173. So it's been a fun one. It's been an in-depth one. I'm going to go and drink some milk now and then go and steal a car and do a bit of the old surprise visit, Gav.
What surprise visit?
Knocking on your door with a big dildo mask on.
That would be a surprise. What are you doing here?
Let me in, Gav. There's been a terrible accident out here.
I haven't got loads of cock pictures, though, around.
You've got a big cock to rock, haven't you?
No. Well, thank you for coming along and listening, guys. We do appreciate it. And I hope you enjoyed us talking Stanley Kubrick and talking cinema.
Indeed. And art and all that kind of stuff, because we got quite highbrow at one point.
Yeah, it's nice. It was nice to get into that conversation about directors and art and stuff earlier. It was nice.
But for now, it's a good night from every type of fucking monster there ever is that all lives in one mansion in the middle of a graveyard for no reason at all.
It's a good night from the old In and Out.
It's a good night from the Corova Milk Bar. And it's a good night from Billy Boy and his droogs, who are going to get the shit kicked out of them by Alex and his droogs.
It's a good night from Darth Vader carrying the world up and down stairs.
In his little hot pants. Thanks, Julian. Yeah, good night from Gav.
Good night from Dan. Good night.
Good night.
Bye. Thank you for listening to the podcast on Haunted Hill. We will be back again real soon.